2, 3.
All right. I am David Wilcock, and welcome to another live stream. I think we figured out exactly when the live stream starts now, so I can begin without any weird drama. We have quite a show for you tonight regarding topics that are extremely central to everything that's going on in the world right now. So going to the slide real quick, I'm going to call this slide. We got the slide. There we go. The Global Very Acrimonious Divorce Part 5. And this has gotten very intense. So to begin with, these are some of the silly things that I've been seeing coming out of the MSM, in this case through dig.com. Why can't NYC V like it's 1947? NYC gave smallpox Vs to 5 million residents in just 2 weeks, 74 years ago. What have we unlearned? Oh, I guess messaging is key. I can tell you why people are not taking these, because they're terrified. And they're terrified for reasons that many people believe are legitimate. When you have this kind of legitimate terror going on in the public, no, they're not going to randomly do this. This is another one that I thought was really funny. Look at this. I got the CV, and then I tried to figure out why. And the joke is, shots fired. That's really funny. Oh God, I wouldn't shut up about it. I was telling all my friends. I texted every doctor and healthcare worker I know. I was getting the V tomorrow. And isn't it kind of ironic, you have to laugh, that his shirt says, go to hell. Okay, I'll just put that out there for you. You can let that outgas on your own and see what it smells like. So here we have another kind of typical MSM thing. These T rally goers are under the troubling impression the president will be I again. CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan talks to DT's supporters in Georgia who insist he'll be eyed as president again despite the evidence to the contrary. Oh yes, all the evidence, right. There's so much evidence that there's nothing to see here, folks. And then this, did DT break the law by pressuring GE officials to find Vs? Did DT's call to Georgia, I said it once, SS Brad asking him to overturn the E result break the law? And then Devin Stone takes a look at whether he went too far. So this is and of course, what are they going to conclude? Oh, it's all this terrible stuff. So what we're dealing with right now, going back to the main camera here, is a major amount of escalation that has occurred just since the day that I last spoke to you, which was January the 5th. If you recall, on January the 5th, I was releasing information to you regarding potential future outcomes of what could happen on the 6th. And those outcomes included what we were hoping would be possibilities that this massive amount of evidence that is truly staggering in scope, let's go over here, that this massive amount of evidence, truly staggering in scope, would be heard legitimately, that the voice of the people would be heard, the questions of the people would be heard, that this would actually happen. And that is not what we got. What we got instead was a very strange sequence of events that were extremely alarming, to say the least, because we ended up having what appears to be an insurgency taking place with people storming the Congress. Going inside, this is what actually did happen, as I'm sure you know. I mean, I never assume anything from my audience, okay? Because I have some very metaphysical people watching this, and they might not know anything about what's going on. It is possible, so please, I'm not going to try to disrespect you by just being thorough in describing what did happen, okay? Because it's kind of a lot to process. There's a lot going on here. There was supposed to be a vote, and we were talking about this for a long time, a vote that was going to be for whether the process would move forward as the media has been portraying that it will, or whether this evidence would get its day. At the same time, the president called for as many people as possible to go to D.C. that day and participate in, I don't know, I guess he said support your president. So I didn't end up going because we just have had so much stuff going on here, and this was a very intense day, and I've been really focusing on being there for the research. I'm sorry I wasn't able to go. It was simply not possible with our schedule. Otherwise, yes, I definitely would have done it. And I have been there before, so I understand the area. Anyway, what a crazy, crazy situation where I'm looking at this and I'm saying, why? And I'm just going to be totally off the cuff here, folks. If I offend anyone, I'm sorry. I looked at this and I said, why would the president bring these people to D.C. on this day with the kind of threat profile that we're dealing with here, given the fact that the enemy is so outrageous that why wouldn't they just want to ace 1 million people at once because of their political beliefs? I totally had to just let go of worrying about that. I didn't make a big stink about it. I didn't say anything on these videos, and I just trusted that there was a lot more intel than I had available to me, or basically that the DS wouldn't want to destroy their own nest, or at least not just yet. In other words, that level of force is probably far too dramatic for anything where they want to try to bounce back from it and still be able to run this country the way they want to, however that turns out to be. I think most of you have a good idea. So here we are looking at this thing going, wow, this is a lot of people in one place at a very, very sensitive time. Is there something else going on? It's almost like the president was dangling out bait, right? Come on over here, you know? So it's very interesting that when the insurgency took place, when there was a break-in, as I'm sure most of you have probably seen by now, it's gotten very widespread circulation. Although there is a bucket brigade, you know, to try to ban these things and delete these things after they take place very quickly. I saw many, many videos that showed unequivocally people in uniform, police, allowing, you know, opening the borders and waving people through going, come on, you know. It's not just, this did happen, okay? So this was not, you can't just get in there unless they allow you in there. I remember hearing secret briefings years ago, hope I'm not giving too much away here, but around the White House, there's always a bunch of guys who look like bums, and they dress like bums, and they smell like bums, but they're actually agents, and they are very dangerous, and they have their little comms, and they've got their weapons and everything. So they're watching you long before you get in there in ways you don't even understand. To be able to just walk in, I'm sorry, it's not possible unless it was authorized and allowed. So because the president's speech was delayed, because he started late, that whole crowd of 500K to 1 million was brought to a different area from where this took place, so that probably we didn't get a much bigger problem. If that whole crowd had been right around the Congress, then there could have been a much, much greater amount of people going in and a much bigger issue. So this event causes them to whisk everybody out. They're all terrified, and the people in Congress are terrified, right? So they got to leave, and then they come back at night after everybody's gone. This sounds pretty freaking familiar now. And going back to the main camera here, they come back at night, and then they just vote it through. And this was earlier in the day, they had said, the vice president had said, all evidence will be considered and heard thoughtfully, and everyone will have a chance to object. All the evidence will be heard. Every representative from every state will have a chance to object. Well, that's what they said they were going to do before this scary thing that happens. The scary thing that happens might not be just a random event. It has all of the trappings of very strange, patterned behavior, to seek objectives and get those objectives to happen. This is not at all unfamiliar. There's plenty of historical precedent for exactly these sorts of things being done on the inside, by the inside, not as just random events. Hence, the uniformed officers waving people right in, showing them where to go, pointing to it, helping them out. Well, then you got to say, well, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to let them in if this was actually planned? Okay, why would you want to let them in? Well, what happened afterwards is that they go back to session and they vote through that. Okay, yeah, we know who is going to be inaugurated on the 20th. We got it all nailed down. There's no, we're not even going to look at the evidence. This is scary. Scary stuff is going on. We're out. We're done. So that's all we knew at the time. And of course, this was severely upsetting to me, as it was to many others, when I came back and saw what was going on. So this is the headline. Let's go back to the slide now. That was on the Sludge report, which is now a completely derelict POS. This site, I don't think, has anything to do with Matt anymore. It's somebody else or something else. But this is what we actually saw. National Guard moves on Capitol. MAGA turns to T, calls for T's removal escalate. And that, of course, is in red. So basically now when you look at this, you're looking at what they want you to know, they meaning the opposition. Then this is the sidebar. And it's extremely, extremely upsetting. You got guys with their weapons drawn, pointing through windows. Let's look at what the actual headlines all say here. It says, "See under siege, see chaos." I'm going to skip some of the words so that we're less likely to be sniffed. I hope you understand that, and I hope you do that in your videos too, okay? Because it'll make you survive a lot longer. I don't really care at this point, but I can't believe I still can do this with a live stream, but let's do it. So, protesters breach in the building, armed standoff, report one shot, woman carried out covered in blood. We know her, and we deeply, deeply are sorry for her loss. I forgot her name right off the top. Ashley Babbitt, of course. Violence, tear gas, evacuations, Pence whisked away, lockdown, live, E-device found at RNC, reports of possible pipe bees across D.C., mayor orders C, which is going home before a certain hour. Our fury. This is what the president has caused today, this insurrection. They're trying to blame it on him, right? He brought these people out here. He caused all this. The D hides in motorcade after claiming he'd march. Oh, he's such a coward, right? Yeah. Let's anything we can think of. Just throw words on the wall and let's see what sticks. Watching chaos unfold on television at White House. Rudy threatens trial by combat. Fox cuts Don Jr. after he screams profanities. Conspiracy theory extremism tops 2021 T concerns. And it's only after you go down and to the left, with this being the headline, if it bleeds, it leads, and all these little headlines, down and to the left, not even on the main headline, it says, P rejects call to overturn B's E. Okay, that's in red. And then they got a picture of the president looking very angry, of course. And then Trader Mitch says our democracy would enter a death spiral. Well, no, that already happened, my friend. And I will see you in Cuba pretty soon, I think. The D privately admits it's over, but wants to brawl for attention, of course. He's such an attention grabber. Oh, he has disgraced the office. Yes, yes. We almost all agree on this. MAGA fans scream traitor. Yes, if you start betraying our country like this, you better believe that if you get on a flight, people are not going to be too happy. That's just, I can't control that. I would tell them not to do that to you, but come on, what can we do here? It's going to happen with some people. If he pardons self now, he'll be walking into a trap. And then, oddly, good old you-know-what on the bottom there says he should not be prosecuted. So maybe he's trying to get a last-minute pardon. Who knows? So here we have the dude with the horns, who was one of the people who was walking around inside. There was a theory going around that he might have had recording devices in the horns, recording everybody. We have not gotten this confirmed. There's a lot of speculation about this online. The sources that I talked to said that was not true, that he is a supporter, but he's not doing anything covert. I don't know. It could be either one. I don't know right now. I really don't. Okay. So at the same time that you see those crazy headlines on Drudge, there's an enormous number, in fact, a huge number of planes in the air, the military traffic, 615 on the screen, 615 flights in process, military flights, 615 of them all in the air at the same time on January the 6th. That is unheard of, or at least very, very rare. So and it's all over the U.S., as you notice. So this is probably different factions, a lot of positioning going on. And then this happens, right? Just in. And this, by the way, is on a wonderful little app, and it rhymes with smellogram or something like that. You might be able to figure out what it is from that. So our dear, dear, wonderful friend and new Statue of Liberty, Lady Liberty, Sydney, she is rocking it, and I send her all the best, and I hope you do too. Just in, FB's Zuck blocks the president from posting for the remainder of his entire term. And this started very soon after the thing that they tried to blame on him that was happening. And then we see this coming out of our now very vilified cable network after the betrayal that took place from the election onward. But they're still trying, and I got to give them credit for that. You know, there's good people on there who believe differently than their handlers might, and they're still able to talk. So don't rule them out. But you know, a lot of people have already moved on, and I'm being one of them. You know, although I never was there in the first place. I'm just going to be honest. Platforms banning or restricting him. Look at this: FB, TW, Goo, Spot, Snap, Instagram, Shopify, Reddit, Twitch, YT, TikTok, and Pinterest. They all did this. And then, over and above that, let's go back to they also got rid of the attorneys, so Sydney, and then you have General Mike, and we know who that is, with the last name of Flynn. I just got to stagger this a little bit. And also the other attorney with the last name of Wood and the first name of Lynn, L-I-N, which we've talked about him extensively. We read his tweets. He's been really taking some heat. I mean, this guy, look, Sydney got hit with a $1.3 B lawsuit. $1 billion, okay? $1.3 billion. That's not going to make you have a good day when you wake up in the morning, because how am I going to pay for that? That's the point, right? And who was it from? The company that makes the machines. So that's an obvious intimidation tactic. Do I think that will ever go anywhere? Probably very, very unlikely. So this is where things were. It was extremely upsetting. I was not sure what was going on, and I didn't want to just jump out there for you guys and start talking without knowing more information. If I only have one more of these that I could do, which could easily be happening, it is a total bloodbath. Everybody is getting struck down left and right. It's unbelievable. If I could only do one more, I wanted to have as much information and intel as possible. So I started to hear some things. I guess it was maybe as early as the 8th or something, maybe the 7th even. First it had started with, okay, the dude with the horns, and he had cameras in the horns. And then I asked my insiders, and they said, no, that's not true. Now, that might be true, but they don't know. If it is true, they don't know, okay? He just seems to be a regular guy. Seems to be. Okay. At the same time, we're hearing reports that there are seizures that took place at this event. In other words, it sounds as if, and this was the rumor at the beginning, and this, of course, I could have done a whole video just on the speculations. I could have taken pictures of where I saw it and laid it all out for you, but I didn't want to. I said, if this is anything true, I want to respect my audience enough to wait a little longer and do the due diligence and get the facts. So then Sydney started to release things on this. By the way, if you use the app that I mentioned before that rhymes with Graham, okay, or has Graham in it, and I'll just be as vague as that on purpose, it's one of only two that is highly recommended that probably is completely secure or at least very difficult to break. The other one has to do with something related to a signal. You might have heard of that. Anyway, those are the two, and you really should not use anything else. So you can go on to the one that ends in Graham, and you can type in her name, and then you can get on that group. And then when I started on that group, it had like 10,000 people or 15,000 people. It's now up to over 110,000. It's grown exponentially in just the last couple of days. And now that another recent replacement as a possible replacement for Twitter has been completely nuked and is going dead in a few hours for a week because Amazon took them down. You know who this is. It starts with a P. At that point, it's like, okay, whoa. They don't have any way to talk. But there is this. Sydney's method does work. You can go in there, type in her name, and then you can become part of her group. You just add it, and then you get these texts that come in when she sends them out. So this is what I'm going to show you now. Let's go back to the slide. She showed us a confirmation from this particular general, and I'm going to try to reduce, because the footprint on him is going to be huge, about a particular seized object, which we're not going to say what it is at all at this point, because it's so... I'm going to have to be really codified as I go through this. So this is... I just took this a couple hours ago. It was, I guess, this morning, so it was 2:21 a.m. this morning that this came in. She finally gave us this. It had first braked through Centilli, first name Pete. I love his show too, and I love to listen to him. So, and you know, he was the first one to break this. We have to give him credit, but then Sydney came out with it last night. So this is what it says. Lieutenant General Thomas Blank, speaking at the blank, he says that good guys, part of SF, got a certain person's object during the breach of the Capitol on Wednesday. He says she's frantic, and this is why she is pushing to get rid of the main guy. It absolutely rocked me to the core. My wife was there with me, and we were looking at this thing going, I can't even believe it, because it sounds too good, right? Oh, come on, they got the laptop? What? No. It can't. It's too good. It's too perfect. It's like divine intervention. It doesn't even make sense. How could this have happened? I didn't want to believe it. I wasn't going to put anything out about it at all. Then we see this, and he just lays it down. So this video is probably going to become impossible to find. She did post a transcript at some point, and maybe we'll go back to that later if we even have time, but we might not. Back to the slide again. This is another one that she posted. Another fragment of what he was saying to these assembled people who were there. The coup is being used to destroy small businesses. They're censoring the press. The affidavit revealing Italy's role in the RE is true. The affidavit is true. So we're going to learn about what that means in just a second. And that also got me very, very excited. And then last but not least, the third one of these, every American needs to stand up. The attack on the sea was done by A, but it was enabled by these names. Mick, Khan, you know what, Shu, you know what, Polo, you know what, and the mayor. Co, you know who, sold the top secret program, and then we're not going to say anything about that, to the not going to say anything about that. Okay, you can read it. I'm sorry if you can't read or if you're listening to this over the radio. Some of this is going to be a little bit encrypted, but basically what we're saying is that he's revealed, okay, let's go over here now. What Thomas, I'll just refer to him as Thomas, and I'm not meaning to diminish his title, but it's just the best security, okay? What Thomas is saying is that they found, he says it right flat out in these videos, that they found 7 different drives that, you know, the kind that you store data on for a computer, 7 of those, 1 folding computer, and a server. A server's a pretty big thing. Servers usually are blades, and so they're pretty large. And then he was saying that they had to get it out. They had to get it out of that it was removed from that building where it happened. So I'm going to actually skip ahead right now because I know I have this. So let me just skip ahead here, folks. I'm sorry. But this is... Okay, let's see if I can find it. Maybe it's not in here. Oh, I guess I didn't have time. See, this was so crazy. I'm doing so much stuff here trying to get this all ready for you guys, and so I didn't have that ready. All right, anyway, no big deal. No big deal. So, the idea now is that there was something, that there's a wealth of data that has been found in these machines. And it is so incriminating that we are, our breath is taken away when we learn the truth. He explains that these are incredibly cowardly acts involving collaborating with a certain said foreign country that we've already been hearing about, starts with C, and that collaboration apparently was coming out right from the emails that they're texting and they're excited and ooh, look, it's, and they planned out the whole thing. Well, if you go back to what Lady Liberty said, before, and I defined her before. Okay, we have this interesting program that does reverse surveillance. So they're able to get in there and watch what the intel community is doing, the moves that they're making. They're able to track those moves. They're able to document them, and apparently the enemy did not know this. The program was started with a K, and it rhymes with rackin', right? So you understand where that's going. So, and this is unbelievable, if it's true, that they intercepted that this plan was going to be done. They knew it was coming. They set them up, and they had people waiting, certain special agents waiting, to go in there, to do the extraction, and to get it out. Now, what I didn't have for you is that the video in question not only talks about it, it actually shows footage of two guys coming down the stairs inside this building in question, and the guy in the front very clearly has a large rectangular object inside his gray jacket. It's poking out dramatically. I have a picture of it, but I forgot to put it in. It's too much going on right now. You can go find it if you're very fast, and if you have that particular app I mentioned, you'll probably be able to go see it. So then there were people trying to grab these guys, and then somebody up on the top, who was obviously another part of the team, says, "Leave him alone, leave him alone." Because these were apparently, supporters of the president who were grabbing onto these guys and trying to rough them up. And then the guy said, "We are not you know what that part is, the name of a particular group. We're not that, don't, leave me alone, we're not, we're not." So clearly, this was apparently the exact moment that extraction was happening, and you can see he's holding something really big in the front of his jacket. This is so exciting. But going back to what the slide said, it also talked about new information coming in from this particular insider, and this is the second one here that we were just looking at. The affidavit regarding this particular country's role in the rigged election is true. For the name of the country, we'll just use the letter I from now on, just so you understand. Okay, and I probably shouldn't have said, that whole thing. I got to say RE. All right, so the affidavit is true. What affidavit? Well, this is some other news that you might not have heard of. And it started with this. And I will just be honest that it's a very confusing video to watch, because this particular professor, and I'm not going to say his name, you can read it there, he's clearly not a native English speaker at all. He's just reading words that are written in English, but he doesn't know how to pronounce them. So it's a very difficult thing to understand by listening to it out loud. Thankfully, well, first of all, let's just read the headline, right? It says, "Breaking. Video of SC of I, legal counsel, testifying under oath about interference in 2020 Mike Yoder." And then there's a transcript link there. You can see it's had 120,000 views on this particular app. So when you get the transcript, this is what he actually says. Under distraction and direction of U.S. persons working from U.S. Embassy in Rome, undertook the operation to switch D from the USE from 3 November 2020 from significant margin of V from DT to JB in a number of states where JB was losing the vote totals. Defendant states that he was working in inaudible facility of L Spa, which turns out to be the 8th largest contractor in the world for defense, okay, and utilized military-grade cyber W encryption capabilities to transmit and switch Vs via military satellite from inaudible tower to a particular city in a particular country, which is, Germany. So we got that. The defendant swears that the data in some cases may have been switched to represent more than the total number of Vs. Of course, that's what everybody's talking about. But this is a big deal. The defendant states that he is willing to testify to all individuals and entities involved in the switching of Vs from DT to JB, where he shall be in total protection for himself and his family. Defendant states he is secured in an undisclosed location. The makeup of the original data and data switched upon instruction to provide as evidence in court this matter. So he's got all the evidence, folks. I hereby and declare and swear that the above stated facts have been stated in my presence. So, now I'm going to dig in a little more, and this is where it really gets interesting. This is from a particular website. You can see at the top, NOQ from there. Global DC, I'm not going to say that, IT expert testifies in I court. He and others switched Vs in the U.S. race. So I'm going to read from this now, because this is totally mind-blowing, folks. I am still in shock. Okay, so there's the link. If it's still, if their website doesn't get killed off, there it is. So Rome, January 5th, note the date, 2021. An employee of the 8th largest global DC, LSPA, provided a shocking deposition detailing his role in the most elaborate C act affecting a USE. Sorry, folks, if you're listening to this by the audio, you have to figure out what those letters are. If the video is there, you'll see it, no problem. Corroborating the particular individual that was in national intelligence as a director, whose last name starts with R, corroborating his report of international intrusion, this particular man, Arturo, outlined the scheme that proved successful in using L computer systems and military satellites located in Pescara, Italy. Recent reports of a hack at L now appear to have been an orchestrated cover to mitigate blowback on the corporation, which is partially owned, this is important, folks, partially owned by the government in that country. So they used these systems to do it. NIA, we'll leave it at that, a government transparency organization partnered with the Institute of Good You-Know-What to thoroughly investigate and research the irregularities, which yielded the long-awaited proof that a flawless plot to take down America was executed with extraordinary resources and global involvement. Americans and elected officials now have proof that the E was indeed stolen. Wow. This provides the mechanism for each state to recall their slate immediately or face lawsuits, and request all federal agencies to lock down all internal communications, equipment, and documentation from the embassy in Rome. Well, duh, of course. That's the mechanism that's been provided. Quote, make no mistake, this is a overthrow that we will stop in the name of justice and free and fair ease, stated Maria, and I'm not going to say the rest. Maria's the woman running this, and we'll learn a little bit more about her as time goes on. She's a former agent for alphabet group that starts with a C. She's got that background, and she is doing some great work here. The Institute issued the following statement, quote, our mission is to provide the full truth, expose the perpetrators of this horrific crime, and ensure that every person involved, regardless of position, be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. NIA and the IGG are making the following demands on officials. Depose SD officials, starting with Rome staff, including this particular name. Immediately strip L of all contracts and seize its assets. That's the company from that foreign country that we were talking about. All members of the legislative branch in that building, that office, that you know what, all those members must speak out against this foreign and domestic interference or face recalls and suspicion of involvement. Implement the most severe penalties for participants who had knowledge or participated and who refused to assist in the investigation. These are all suggestions, of course. Maria also added, quote, states must prosecute all illegal V activities and provide immediate legislative remedies. There can only be zero tolerance for criminal interference in American ease. This international must be met with swift action by the President and be fully supported by E officials for the protection of V integrity and the prosperity of our great nation. Okay, so now we're going to dig in deeper, even more. And I don't know if you've seen this, but I think all of this is critical that you see all of this. We're still going to try to keep it well under 3 hours here, but I want to make sure I get all this to you. I've done the homework, you don't have to. So you look down there, you can see a particular website on the bottom left you might be familiar with. I'm not going to say it out loud, as usual, because this is crazy what's going on. This is January the 10th. All right. Bombshell report. Massive DEF operation from I revealed. President briefed on the proof. Now, this really was stunning. And I'm going to read you the whole entire thing because it's so valuable that I think you need to hear it all. The basic questions about exactly what caused the major irregularities in the 6 battlegrounds on E Day have been answered, according to a government watchdog nonprofit and former blank officer. There you go. There you go. In a phone call with volunteers and contributors on Tuesday, NIA Chairman Maria explained how she came upon irrefutable proof that the 2020 EF originated in I, involving a veteran Foreign Services officer and IDCL. The theft of the E, I shouldn't be saying that word too much, was orchestrated in the Rome E by an employee, blankety blank, a Foreign Service officer of over 20 years. There you go. In the embassy. Right in the embassy. Isn't that? They just put it right in your face. And then there was a series of these tweets, and they quoted from a few of them. Apparently there was 15. This is number 12. The theft of the E was orchestrated by ... We said that. Stefan coordinated with General CG, a board member of L. I Intelligence provided us with documents, calls, and photos of agents involved. Whoa. So the intelligence community ratted them out 100%. Look at that. And this is the person who I guess was tweeting this. So Stefan coordinated with the general. Oh, I think we had this one already. Oh, no, we didn't. Okay. This is new. Stefan coordinated with the general, Claudio, and this general is on the board of L. Uh-oh, he's on the board. You see where this is going, and they're the ones that did this, right? So L used their military satellite uplink to load the software and transfer it over to change the votes from T to B. So here we have this general, and you know he's got kind of a know-it-all look on his face, doesn't he? He's like, yeah, you know, I might have done something. And here, why is this man always smiling? You know, he's got this kind of look on his face, like he knows that something's going on. And then when you look here, he looks like he's not having a very good day. Well, I hope that he's one of the good guys that they're talking about who's actually now confessing to this. We don't really know yet, but hopefully he's going to do the right thing and give all the information about what was going on. This is very, very serious, folks. So the proof that was missing, the very basic who did it, where did they do it, and how did they do it, had been missing from all the documents that had been sent into these Cs. There was nothing that was helping us win in the seas, she added. This unprecedented foreign attack was funded by none other than former U.S. President, you got it. Yes. Schools, jobs, education, healthcare. Healthcare. Right. Okay. Well, that's pretty crazy. They thought they were very shrewd in how they did it. They had a really brilliant plan that was orchestrated by this man himself with the help of Renzi, the former prime minister of this country. So Renzi, let's take a look at Renzi real quick. Oh, my friend, I must tell you. I'm going to do a toast tonight, but I have to do the toast with my eyes only halfway open because I am so drunk I cannot see anything. I don't know. That's my Italian. There you go. It's not very good. I'm sorry, but the guy's lidden. You know, that's what we used to call it in college when you can't keep your eyes open. You're lidden. And look who he's friends with. You know, they seem to be very cozy here. They have a very cozy relationship, yes. And he can't seem to keep his eyes open there either, you know? So here they are, you know, these guys are buds, okay? They've been friends for a long time. Get away from Christine Lagarde, you guys. Like, you know, look at her bodyguard behind the two of you. He's got his fist clenched. He's not too happy about how close you guys are. And the former prez on the right there, like, your arm might be a little bit inappropriately positioned. I'm just going to, you know, I don't know. But and she's got this look on her face like, what? Oh, yes. $400 million on a series of pellets. We gave them 14 pellets with $400 million. You're going to learn that in just a minute. It's unbelievable. If somebody gave me that much, I would not take it. I would not do these kind of deals, but you can see that if I put my hands out like this, it means I'm saying something important, and that's a gesture that I like to use to make you laugh, as I can see you're doing. You're smiling, you're snickering. That's very good. I want you to be my friend because down the road I'm going to need you, so help me out here. And by the way, let's just kind of sneak off to maybe an undisclosed location so we can talk. Yes. Look at his face. I like it. This is unbelievable, folks. The shocking news is the funding. Blankety blank in 2017 actually took $400 million, 14 pallets of cash. And that money was transferred over to different accounts. We have the exact travel plan of that cash. That was the plan, the funding, to unravel the presidency. Kaboom. So here's 12 pallets. And obviously these are double high pallets, which you might not always do. They might be half height. This is $1 billion, okay? So if you were to chop all these pallets in half in size, add 2 more, you get your 400M. So that's about right. 14 pallets, I can totally buy it. So wait a minute. Let's just pause for a second here. Do you actually mean to tell me that through some weird system that could include EBS, the emergency system that's going to let things happen, you know, I'm not going to say that either. Do you honestly think that all of this would be coming out right now if it's all going to be fake and none of it is true and it's all a lie and it's all a deception? You got people fighting, risking their lives to tell us this stuff, and it is unbelievable. So for me, when I look at what I'm seeing here, I get very, very excited about this because I'm saying, whoa. It's so specific. There's all these details, and they're saying that they have the sworn affidavits, the documents, they're ready to go forward, and you're going to hear more about this. So let me keep going. The shocking news is the funding. BO in 2017 actually took $400 million, 14 pallets of cash, and that money was transferred over different accounts. We have the exact travel plan. That was the plan, the funding to unravel. I guess we already said that. I just wanted you to hear it again. It's so crazy. This is from a tweet now. And so there again, to give you a sense of the massive volume that would have had to be transferred. Now, that's a lot of bribes, folks. That's a lot of payoffs. 14 pallets, $400 million. You could get a lot done with $400 million. You could get an enormous amount of work done if you were working this way. It shows just the number of people being paid. The payroll is gigantic. The scale of this thing is huge. It's unbelievable. Let's go back to the slide. Zach claims she obtained a sworn affidavit from a whistleblower within L, the 8th largest DC, outlining how the crime of the century was committed. She passed it along to the president and his lawyers on Christmas Eve at Mara you-know-what. Quote, and I informed him that he is getting the best Christmas present he could ever ask for, the affidavits of the people who did it, and their confession and assistance in letting everybody know what happened. This is so exciting. Then there's another tweet in the article, 14. On Christmas Eve, we met with President T at Mar, and okay, so this is the same thing we said before. He's getting the affidavits to people involved. We need the grassroots army like never before because the people who thought they stole the E have lost and they don't know it yet. There you go. I said, Merry Christmas, sir. We're about to give you the best Christmas present ever. You're going to have the evidence you need from the whistleblower who actually committed the crime of uploading the material. Zach then explained that when the proof comes out, the states must act swiftly and punish harshly those who tried to interfere in our E. States must prosecute all illegal V activities and provide immediate legislative remedies. There can only be zero tolerance for criminal interference in American E's. This international C must be met with swift action by the Prez and be fully supported by officials for the protection of V integrity and for the prosperity of our great nation. Former blank officer Brad J. claimed in December that the U.S. government had discovered the IEF operation used L's satellite network to upload fraudulent Vs into the main swing state systems via the internet. Quote, I think we're finally tracking this down as to where the actual problems took place. All this broke in I, Johnson said. There you go. And that's the video that was linked. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had time. There's so much going on. I had to get this to you tonight. Very important that it's tonight, folks. Sorry it's going to take a couple hours to explain, but you do not want to click off here. Just stay with me. This is very exciting. The way it's shaping up now, the U.S. E's were changed. The results were changed in 5 or 6 key states. All those VMs were hooked up to the internet. The internet was then used to download the information to those famous servers in the country starting with a G. If these claims are true, B will never set foot in the White House again, and the world will soon learn the truth about the biggest crime in American history. And here's our old buddy who's taken a lot of heat now, and this was something that he tweeted out the night after this all took place. With January the 6th. The night of January 6th is when he did this. Time for rest. I had to stay up to watch the conclusion of the greatest attempted theft in history. Now, this is very important, folks. Now it is a completed crime. It had to be completed first with no interference. This is important. This is my words adding it in. Then he says, many traitors will be arrested and jailed over the next several days. Woo! I really, really hope that's true, folks. And I believe it is, and I'm showing you why. We got to unpack this thing. It takes a little time, and you got to hold all the data in your head, but there's not a whole lot of data, so let's keep going. He says, I want the truth. The president will serve 4 additional you-know-what. Okay, so then we have this one he also echoed and then made a comment where a particular user said, sleep well tonight. The constitutional process played out till the end, and T didn't interfere once. You are going to love how this movie ends. And then Wood says, I could not agree more. The best is yet to come. This is another tweet that came out right in the middle of all this stuff. This was actually 2:59 p.m. on the day of. My humble opinion from having studied K tactics, color revs, disinfo campaigns, all of it, is that this is being completely staged to destabilize the U.S. This strikes me as the culmination of decades of planning and preparation. It is not spontaneous. And then he says below, we got to read this one too, I was a journalist in Moscow during the color revs in Ukraine and Georgia. I did field research in Russia on civil society, and I have journalist friends in Eastern Europe. The events today are remarkably similar to what you see in that part of the world. Well, I wonder why. Maybe it's because the same people are doing it, right? I can't imagine why it looks so similar. All right, here's another one that I saw, same day, January the 6th, 3:48 p.m. As just reported by @FDR, D.C. Mayor sent a letter to DOD, DHS, and DOJ yesterday refusing federal law enforcement assistance to handle the e-protests and demanding that officials stand down. Whoa. Because this is an insider war, and she's in the faction who thinks that the guy who's there now is some kind of rogue guy who has to be stopped, and she's buying into all this rhetoric. So then we got to look, and then in response to this tweet, this is the original one that they were responding to. One thing we're going to need answers on, this is on the bottom now, is why it was so easy to breach the Capitol. This is a major national security issue. It should have never been this easy to do. Imagine if those were actually well-trained T's with weapons that could have done insane damage. This is unacceptable. So not only is there that much danger, but now as he's responding, the mayor is saying, no, we don't want any federal law enforcement assistance. And you got to stand down. So here's another thing that is very interesting. And there's a lot to this. The tweet says, the Prez just told everyone to disperse and go home, check off another box, and then we're reading about this act from 1807. The Act of 1807 is a United States federal law that empowers the POTUS to deploy USM and federalized National G troops within the U.S. in particular circumstances, such as to suppress civil disorder, insur and rebellion. The Act provides a statutory exception to the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which limits the use of military personnel under federal command for law enforcement purposes within the U.S. Before invoking the powers under the Act, 10 U.S.C. Section 254 requires the Prez to first publish a proclamation ordering the insurgents to disperse. So this was actually done. So bear in mind that everything is being done legally. And Santilli also said something interesting last night. I can't remember what it was. There was something like wind of grace or grace wind or some two-word phrase that the president said in a speech that is a code term, or he was interpreting it as a code term, having to do with a particular plan that was being activated. So there's a lot of interesting things going on here. So back to the slides again. Here's another shot of the dude with the horns, just to kind of show how crazy this was. People running around inside, causing mayhem, and being allowed in. It's just unbelievable. But we're so lucky what happened. This one started to go around again, and this is one of the 17th letter things. You know what that is. From November 1st, 2017, reading at the bottom now, 4154, so this is like at 12:41 a.m. Think about it logically. The only way is the military, fully controlled. That means like the world, the justice system, the police, the judiciary, the legislative branch, everything. I mean, fully controlled. That's what it's saying. The only way is the military. Save and spread once 11.3 verifies as first marker, biggest advanced drop on Paul, which is the name of the forum. Once 11.3 verifies as first marker, what the heck happens on November the 3rd? Oh, it's an election. 11.3 verifies as the first marker. It's all fully controlled. The only way is the military. This is the biggest advanced drop we've ever given you. And then somebody just wrote in now and said, it looks like it. You can't get any more corrupt than this. They make King George look like a saint. And then he's listing all these things. Agencies, FDC, DH, DN, SCOTUS, Congress, Senate, VP, fail. Now, if you're still not convinced and you're still crossing your arms and you're that guy in the back that says, F you, David, I don't like you, what about this? Somebody tweeted this January 7th, 11:54 a.m. It's effing going down. I put that blue bar over it so I don't have any censorship problems. Disclose.tv says, just in, FCC has just issued an enforcement advisory reminding all emergency alert participants, I'm not going to say everything, of their quote-unquote obligations. FCC enforcement advisory. Enforcement Bureau reminds emergency... So there you go. Now, what does this mean? This means that there is an order being put out that this emergency system must be used and it cannot be interfered with. Now, one of the things that, and I believe it was Wood in some of his posts, he was talking about, he linked to an old video from Alex during the time that Alex was doing his thing during the previous administration. And it's a very, very long discussion about the emergency system, which I didn't understand. That if you own a radio station, if you own a television station, you are required by law to have this big box that is wired in to everything else. It is randomly tested at least once a week by officials who come in at a random moment, and they have to confirm that it's going to work. It can totally take over the radio or the television, and it does so through shortwave radio broadcast, apparently, that beams into the device. So I don't know if that means that the shortwave radio will lead to a robotic voice. I don't know if it means that they're going to be able to have any video in this at all. It might be a weird voice. It might be a voice that's not robotic and a regular human-sounding voice. I hope that's what it is, that at least you get the audio. But it's starting to look like we might have a lot of information come through this method. It might not just be like a little thing that goes off for 5 minutes. It could be hours of talking that, believe me, at this point, everybody's going to want to listen to. So this is a very exciting but also terrifying thing that's going on here. Everything that I told you is coming true. I don't know how you could discount what I've been saying anymore, given all these events. Back to the slide. This is another reminder that's been circulating again from January 13th of 2018. We are fighting for life. We are fighting for good. We are at war. Not everything will be clean. A scare is a necessary event. Now remember, by this point they were already drafting orders to make sure that things were not interfered with, and they're saying the scare is a necessary event. So that's pretty significant. Do you trust the USM? Do you trust the chain of command? Have faith. We are in control. Patriots, Patriots Day. Have faith. You were chosen for a reason. You are being provided the highest level of intel to ever be dropped publicly in the history of the world. Use it. Protect and comfort those around you. Where we go one, we go all. So a scare will be, not everything will be clean. A scare will be a necessary event. This is before all this other stuff happened. But isn't it interesting what they're saying here? And then someone else said this in response to one of my, no, it wasn't one of mine. It was another one. I just saw this online. It was below one of the other ones that I was looking at. I knew it. I was just telling my husband this morning that it was odd timing. We just recently got 2 Amber Alerts. There haven't been any in maybe even years, and all of a sudden we get 2. This is in one particular part of the country where this happened. With this particular announcement from the FCC, I'm certain they're testing the EAS. And then look at this. In the city I live, in MI, our EAS sirens around town have been going off for about an hour now. It's outside of normal testing, no bad weather, etc., and it's going on for too long. People are out in the streets wondering what's going on. And then somebody said, where in MI? I'm there also. But obviously, MI is a big place. But he didn't want to say what city it was, or she didn't want to, obviously because she doesn't want to be targeted. And then this is the actual post. Enforcement Bureau reminds EAS participants of compliance obligations. So there it is. Boom. This is true, folks. Now, this is a very interesting little series of tweets that summarized a lot of stuff. What's happening? And, I'm not going to pronounce it the way he did, but that's a special thing, a little code there for the 17 folks. Number 1, Trump, oh, I said his name. There we go. Number 1, T got Patriots to show up en masse yesterday. Number 2, ... infiltrated with congressional support. Number 3, they were let in and they insurrected as required for IA, which is the act. The A means act, okay? And the first word is already in the sentence. So think about what this is. This had to happen. MI had people fully infiltrated in this group and were recording everything. It sounds like that is true. I don't know from where. Number 5, NG 82nd Airborne, which is Flynn's group, of Black Hawks, Chinooks, and military dressed up as a certain agency were called in. T told the people to disperse as required to activate the IA, and they did not. Number 7, people died inside the grounds of the building as a result, which is very, very sad. Number 8, per protocol, Congress was escorted to a safe place. Number 9, evidence was gathered as they left their personal belongings, phones, comms, computers, etc. Number 10, they then came back, exposed themselves for what side they're on, and then knowingly certified what they were doing on live TV. Number 11, the military recorded the entire thing. Number 12, social media is already silencing all of his accounts. This is called Red 1. It was in the 17 stuff. Number 13, despite their win, they are still frantically calling for the impeachment in the 25th Amendment. What is that about, right? Number 14, people who once supported him are all coming out against him one by one. And that's good, because now we know who they are. And it's just getting started. Once this D-class thing happens, it will be impossible to defend. This is very significant. So, you have these, I guess, one of the guys that did this was arrested. I think he might have been arrested, the guy that was carrying around her lectern. Here's the dude with the horns, with his bullhorn there on the stage. I guess this guy also got arrested. He was hanging out in Nancy's office. Maybe some others had already been in there by then. Apparently they got some really good stuff. I don't know why. I mean, isn't it hilarious, right? After all these years, you would have thought that it would have been somebody else, like a woman whose name starts with F and rhymes with Killary, right? You would have thought it would have been somebody else who would be the ultimate, where the one mistake is the final mistake that truly destroys this DS that we've been talking about, the adversary. And it turns out to be Nancy. If you organized it, if you set it up, and you paid for the whole thing, $400 million, maybe they're still using that. Maybe they got probably a lot more money's been spent since then. Why in the world wouldn't you remember to grab all your computers? But they're not thinking. See, this is, it totally, it's so beautiful in military history. This is going to go down as the same kind of thing of the German premier, marching on a particular city in Russia, doing it in the middle of the winter, and then not realizing there'd be a slash and burn and the troops were all going to die off from starvation and thirst and cold, because they burned down all the houses, the food. They destroyed everything that could keep people alive in the entire path that they knew he was going to be going. And remember also that the code was broken by Churchill. He knew this, but he could not come out with what was really happening. He could not protect London. He had to allow it to happen. Folks, I would strongly advise you to consider that there are things that are going to have to be allowed to happen at this point. I hope that there are antidotes for certain things. I hope that those antidotes were made at the beginning when the original problem was created. They probably are. So hopefully antidotes can be found, duplicated, and released to those who actually did do this. If not, it doesn't look good based on what we know about this thing. So a lot of stuff going on. Back to the slide again. And then somebody made this point, and a lot of people have been making this point. This was on the 6th. Remember when Dem activists stormed and then occupied the WI Capitol building for a month? The media adored them. So it's only if this is the... you never want to let a good crisis go to waste, right? That's the old saying. So, yeah. Depending on how it's being done and whether they benefit from it or not, they're going to have a completely different reaction to it. It's really quite amazing that only one person was shot in this. Unfortunately, she did die, Ashley, but... It's so much less than what it could have been. And we did a global peace meditation the night before because I didn't know what the heck was going to happen on the 6th. I didn't want to talk about it, but I'm thinking to myself, the president brought 1 million people out there. We got to protect them because if some really big thing goes down, I don't want to see this. I don't want to look at it the next day and wonder if I should have done a global meditation the night before. We only had 1 death. from actual violence. I mean, the other ones, there's apparently like 4 or 5 total from heart attacks or whatever happened. But anyway, it's very, very small. I just got notified we have 143 people watching live. Thank you to each and every one of you. I love you. Dude, this is crazy. I'm talking to the guys now. I'm not calling you a dude if you're a woman, so I apologize if you just took offense to that. Everybody's looking for something to write about, right? Dude, I'll just talk to you guys for a moment, okay? We have an obligation to protect the feminine here. The feminine is the vulnerable. The feminine is the sensitive. The feminine is the nurturer. We cannot allow our planet to be destroyed. We cannot allow our planet to turn into a dictatorship. Elizabeth and I were talking to a friend recently who had traveled in China. And I'll only say it once, and I'm going to say C from now on. So when he was in C, he actually was talking to people, and they revealed to him, never, ever even dare to open your mouth about politics. You could be in a restaurant. You could be having dinner in a restaurant. This is a true story. A friend of his was having dinner in a restaurant. He opened his big effing mouth to talk about politics. During his meal in the restaurant, officers came in and he was arrested. It is illegal to talk about politics whatsoever in C. If you get arrested and you're a foreigner, anybody, if you get arrested, you will be interrogated. If you're a foreigner, usually what happens after your interrogation is they immediately ship you home. Your time in that country is gone. You leave. If you are a native to the country, you go through a vicious interrogation. It's very stressful. If you thoroughly prove that you did not have anything intending to, you've never plotted, you don't have any bad feelings about the government, you don't want to do anything, you haven't even been thinking about it, you don't even want to think about it, you're crying because you're so sad that you've been misheard and you love the government, right? If you can pull that off, then they might let you live, but if you don't, or if the interrogation doesn't go well for whatever reason, you never come back. Nobody ever sees you again. You just disappear. Now think about what I just said, folks. In this country, simply having a conversation about it in any public place is grounds for immediate arrest, and if there's any evidence that you actually dislike the government, they kill you. In a site that nobody knows what happened to you. You're gone. And they want to do that here. No effing way. I don't care what has to be done, as long as it's within the guidelines that we have had, that have been voted upon, and the rules and regulations that we have collectively agreed are the governance that we're going to follow. You cannot let this go. You cannot ignore this. You cannot act like this is BS. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, well, we don't want to cause any trouble. Oh, we don't want to create more problems around this area in the capital, right? We're so scared. Let's just let it happen. Let's just let this whole thing happen. No freaking way. But going back to Sludge again, the headline here, this is what they did. After the betrayal was complete, they got a picture of Prez, and he's, as if it's all over. Oh, JB is certifiable. That's the end, folks. It's all over. And then our friend, the attorney, Mr. Wood, said, and this is now on his alternative platform, which is about to go up in smoke in like 3 hours. Never again will anybody be able to use this or want to. Because Amazon's just canceled it, and it's going to take them a week to rebuild the thing. So this is gone as of tonight. So I'm taking pictures of everything as we go. You got to be really fast to stay on top of all this. Good afternoon. I am hearing rumors that P and leaders of the C are planning to arrest and even ex-president and his followers. I hope you can read that. Typical move by commie tyrants. They will never do it, as 80M plus patriots would react, and it would not end well for the commies. But just in case they try, I have my escape pod gassed up and ready, and this is a car that he says only goes 40 miles an hour or something. So he's kind of being funny. But anyway, the point again is that they're trying to arrest and execute. And it's just crazy. Then he comes out with this. Right after the VP is walking off the podium, the very first person he meets after he's certified that this thing is going through, or so they think it's going through, here's this guy who you'll notice is not really wearing his mask. Ooh, bad boy, I can see the tip of your nose there. And he's talking to the VP, and he hands him this coin. And it is clearly a gold coin inside a plastic case. And if you've ever seen any of the 3 John Wick movies, they talk about these coins being a basic kind of like a token or like a payment in this weird group that clearly whoever's doing John Wick knows something about it. The gold coin also appears on the movie poster for our movie Above Majestic. And he's holding the coin, right? So you might have seen that. I watched the video. I showed it to Elizabeth. Do you want to say something about this real quick? How did you feel when I showed you this movie? It was so, to me, it was so crazy.
It was pretty interesting. There was definitely some sort of good old boys club thing there. And then Nancy Pelosi with the elbow. So
we're not saying names, but yes.
Excuse me. Some insider thing going on.
You got to learn the code.
Sorry, I'm green here.
It's an outrage. It's shocking. So back to the slide again. It says here, blankety blank receives strange coin after certifying the fraudulent Okay. So then this happened on the 8th, and a lot of people got really upset because General F appeared to be throwing in the towel. And this is what he actually tweeted right before he lost all access to his account, by the way, just like everybody else, Powell and Wood and POTUS, and everybody just lost. It's the final purge, right? This sounds pretty sad and scary, like it's all over. America fought a good fight. Our great country is resilient, and we will get through this difficult time. Acting responsibly at this moment is what all Americans must do. Well, that's important. That means don't go out there and act like a fool. Don't go, doing anything violent. Please stay inside and let this all play out the way it needs to play out with the guys that are playing it out, okay? And that means the good guys, I'm saying, in this case. We've talked about this a bunch. During the past 4 tough years, I found faith, family, and true friends were my foundation. God bless America. And then notice all the people that he's, linking to, and then he responds to his own tweet where he quotes Deuteronomy 6:4-9, and then he says, despite the crisis, a sense of unity and patriotism affords America a common mission and increased opportunities. So this is January the 8th, 9:43 a.m., right before it all got knocked off. So then this all starts to happen, and now we're up to the 10th. It actually does turn out that blackouts have occurred, and I probably don't even want to say that word either, in Italy, in Pakistan, and in Germany. And the one in Italy apparently was 8 hours long. So then there's this video where you see the seagulls fly off, and you can hear, if you really turn it up, you can hear some sounds. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's any type of shots or what, but there's this rumor going around. We have not confirmed this, but it appears that during an 8-hour blackout in this particular country that arrests have already happened, maybe even including the pontiff himself. And then that's what was going on during the blackout, which is exactly what we told you. You'll notice the theme here. I'm not play I told you so too much. But we told you that there would be a blackout. And so if this turns out to be right, which I don't know yet, okay? But if you've got that affidavit from that whistleblower, and that they've laid out the whole thing, that it was a defense contractor, that it was involving the former PM of this particular country, and that $400 million was involved in paying for this, and they've tracked it all, and they know, and the whistleblowers have come forward. The guy that I showed you a picture of, who's now a whistleblower, said he personally uploaded the software that did this. Okay, it's unbelievable. So they found the critical piece. And again, it happened on Christmas Eve. That's when everybody on the inside found out, or at least the top guy found out. Okay. So here's another thing that happened, as all these blackouts are starting to happen, and I believe all of this is today. I think everything we're going to read now, he's done it today. A great deal of evidence deals with P and child ST. Laws provide it from being transmitted online, so the evidence can only be brought to light in court, and that would be under seal, meaning most people would not be seeing it. Certain witnesses would see it. They would be authorized to see it. I wouldn't want to be one of them. You will also be shown evidence at the proper time and through proper channels about the conclusive evidence of EF and acts of T by many against our country. But notice what he said. At the proper time and through proper channels about conclusive evidence. That might not be the first thing we get, folks. The first thing we get, according to the General McInerney, right, if you remember that one, the first thing apparently we're going to get is an arrest of Nancy herself. And they're saying it could happen as early as tomorrow. But of course, the fact that this is being broadcast publicly means it's probably not going to happen. It either won't happen, or it'll be late, or there's going to be something else that goes down. So again, you got to understand, folks, the plans change every hour or every minute sometimes. We don't really know anything. But wouldn't it be something if this is all getting ready to go really, really big here? So check this out. Let's go back to the slide. So at the proper time and through proper channels, you will see this evidence, but it might not happen first. There will be other stuff that happens first. It will awaken everyone, and they will demand these arrests. Perhaps most shocking will be the masterful actions of the president in ridding our country of debtor state status. Our financial system is a paper F. Time for bankruptcy and a fresh start. Just think, no more income taxes. Good time to own gold, silver, land, etc. Real assets versus paper. It is 1776 again. Stay tuned. Whoa. And some of his tweets on this platform have now already been taken down, and the whole thing's going down at midnight tonight. This is also extremely exciting, folks, and this just came out today. Already had 93,000 views when I took a picture of it. Over the next 10 to 14 days, well, wait a minute. Okay, stop right there. First of all, today's the 10th. Everybody's been acting as if like the 20th is the final deadline, right? Oh my God, that's the day it happens. That's the day. Wait a minute. He said over the next 10 to 14 days. If today's the 10th, then the 10-day window goes right up to the 20th, but it also goes all the way out to the 24th. Therefore, one would reason that probably the 20th is not going to happen. I would imagine that there will be so much evidence that comes to light in a way that probably involves this emergency system or some other method. I think there's some surprises coming. I do. I'm very excited about it. But no matter what, we're going to get some really, really good stuff here. The people are going to want, it doesn't matter what political party you are, or even if you hated this guy for the last 5 years and you bought into everything the media was saying, this is so crazy, it's so evil, it's so weird, it's so dastardly, nobody's going to want to go along with this. And that really is a very important point. I am going to talk about Joan of Arc, by the way. We're going to get to that, why that's important, why that's in the title, okay? So hang in there with me. Okay, so let's go back to the slide now. Over the next 10 to 14 days, you will learn shocking information about many of our government officials and wealthy elite. Child ST and P are the worldwide pandemic. Revelations will relate to JB, BO, Chief Justice John, HC, Nancy P, Mike P, Jeffrey E, BG, and thousands more. Thousands more. I have seen the evidence. It is conclusive. This truly is the battle between good and evil. Now, please bear in mind that when an attorney who specializes in defamation, in case, I know it very well, right? Elizabeth and I both are very, very familiar with defamation. Let's just leave it at that. I don't want to feel too sorry for myself because these other folks I'm referring to now are taking much bigger hits than I am right now. The defamation attorney, that's what he specializes in. Defamation is people saying things that attack you and try to defame you. They take away your righteousness, or they try to hurt you publicly by making up things about you that are not true. So defamation, by definition, is one of two things. It's either libel or slander. Libel is defamation in writing. Slander is defamation that's spoken out loud. Believe me, we learned all this, didn't we? So, yeah, we did. So if you are a defamation attorney and that's your specialty, you don't ever want to say something that is not true, because you know that the only way you can prove defamation is by making sure that everything you say is true. So an attorney of this level of significance, with this level of positioning, is not going to be saying things that he cannot prove are true, because he knows that he is making public statements. And these statements could be considered libelous. They could be defamatory. They could have defamation in them if they are knowingly untrue. In other words, all somebody would have to do afterwards for Wood is prove that he knew that something he said in any of these texts, any of them, was a lie. If he knew it was a lie, if you can prove it was a lie, you've got him on defamation, and he knows that because he wins these cases. So he's never going to say something that is not provably true, or at least if he's speculating, he lets you know that he's speculating. So bearing that in mind, where did he get this briefing from? Well, obviously, if he's been deplatformed, if he got taken off of Twitter now, he had said in one of the previous broadcasts that he hadn't spoken to the press in over a month, but I'll bet you now that's changed, or that he's in regular communication with other people in the team. One of my insiders, I probably shouldn't say this, but one of my insiders did say that he's been a troublemaker. I think he did more than they really expected. Shocking stuff. And also, some of the other insiders I'm talking to are not as confident as he is. They don't have as much faith as he does about the way this is going to work out. There is significant concern as to whether this is actually going to work or not. And that's why I want to use this technology. In fact, I will say this. The Alliance directly requested that we do this, that we do another global meditation, because this is the only tool we have, and we know that it works. So it's not just me. We want to do as many of these as we can, and we want to try to stay in that prayerful state, stay in that meditative state, stay in a peaceful, loving state. There's a whole other layer to this, which is the spiritual warfare, and that's going to get into our Joan of Arc discussion. But I wanted to get through the data first, so if you're only here for the data, then you're going to hear everything. I have seen the evidence. It is conclusive. It's a worldwide situation, and in the next 10 to 14 days, oh my God, I can hardly wait, you will learn shocking information about many government officials and wealthy elite. I can barely even wait. This truly is a battle between good and evil, absolutely. So then he posted this, Vatican blackout. Apparently the pontiff arrested on an 80-count indictment for child T and F. Pope F, a.k.a. Jorge, was arrested Saturday in conjunction with an 80-count indictment. I have no idea if this is true. The article gets pretty detailed and specific. I was going to quote from it. I didn't have enough time. But again, the core of what is being alleged is that this 8-hour blackout that is definitely provable, that everybody lost power, that during that time multiple arrests were made. There's a lot of juicy information in this. So you might want to go follow up on that. I'm sorry I didn't have enough time to get that one in there. So here's another thing. And he tweeted this as well. Wood tweeted this. It says that a blackout occurring all across Pakistan after national grid breakdown, and the government urges calm. The electricity distribution system in the nation of more than 210 million people is a complex and delicate web, and a problem in one section of the grid can lead to cascading breakdowns countrywide. So there you have it. Now, Pakistan apparently is another one of the countries where a lot of these things took place. And so there's probably evidence that was seized. There's probably arrests that happened. Because remember, we already heard about in a country starting with G that there were servers grabbed there in a facility run by, what they affectionately call the company or the clowns. The clowns in America. You probably can guess what that is. Anyway, all these blackouts are very interesting. 3 different countries, prolonged periods of time, exactly what we told you would happen when they got to grab people. That's the best way to do it. Why wouldn't it be happening now? Another thing that everybody is starting to talk about, we'll get into later, is the idea that as of last night at midnight, it's rumored that the president already activated the EO, the executive you-know-what. The 13848 is the number of the order from 2018. How to stop this fraud from happening if it did happen or if it was going to happen. They anticipated this, right? That may have taken place. Our own sources have not confirmed this yet. Other sources have. We have slides about this coming up. Everything is coming to a head right now, folks. So here's another thing that he posted. Live feed from this particular area. That's where people heard the sounds and the birds flying off, which might have related to gunfire going on inside as arrests were happening. There will be some armed resistance, I'm sure. Now look at this. He says Apple is going to do an update on all of their phones to shut off the emergency system. This is NG 1938. Turn your auto update toggle off. Okay. If you have your little phone, you can go under General. You got to hit the gear icon, which is the gray one that's got the gear on it. Do this right now, please. It's very important. Do it right now. Go in there, find your gray gear icon. Elizabeth's going to do this with me right now. Click on it. Click on General, and then in that menu, and then click on Software Update. And then you turn off auto updates if it isn't already turned off. Because they're literally going to try to push this thing through. So he's alleging, right? And remember, he's a defamation attorney, so if he gets proven that he was lying, they might not do it now that he's exposed it, but they probably will. Sneak in this update so you can't hear what's going to be happening. It's so crazy, folks. It's so freaking crazy. So turn that off. Great. You did that. Let's move on. Back to the slide. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. 131,000 views on this alternative platform, 56,000 replies, or I don't know what that is. Anyway, let's read it. Be prepared for an imminent blackout. What have I been telling you folks since 2009? That it would happen with blackouts. I've always been saying this. The president will be using e-broadcast system. And I don't know why he mirrored be using. I don't think that was deliberate. It's just because he's so freaked out like I was when I read this. We have a man of courage and faith at the helm. He has said in his shows that the president is praying multiple times a day. And he says he needs all the help he can get. That's why we're doing this meditation. So he will be at the helm for 4 more years per the rule of law. Pray for president and our country. And it goes on from there. But that's... Okay, so here we are. So a little bit later, we're going to have a tour of really cool prepper supplies that we've got. This is a Midland portable CB radio. I am not getting any product placement fees for this, folks. This is one of the things we were told to get from Midland. It's a portable CB radio with a little antenna on it, so you can use it. It has either a battery pack with regular batteries, or you can have. There's also a recyclable battery pack. It also can work off of a car charger, and I think they give you that. All right. The other thing, this is the one that the Alliance told us to get. This is the Midland DBR 2500. And it looks pretty badass. I mean, you look at the back and you see the labels. It's got this little, I'm not making any money on this, folks, but this is what we were told to buy, okay? So check it out. You open it up. This is what you get inside the box. First of all, you get this console. And the console has some wires coming off of it, which look like this. And then there's a connector here. But it looks to me as if the contact is like for inside a car, because you have to, it's this little funny connector piece, okay? I don't know if you can see that too well, and what it looks like over here, right? So you have this piece, you have a jack on the back that you're supposed to put an antenna in, you have a mounting bracket, you have mounting screws, and then you get this guy. This is your little cop type of breaker 1919, breaker. Calling all units. Calling all units. We got an APV on the 405 coming over the mountain into 121. We got a 36 of 475. It's all chaos out here, folks. We got military grade. I don't know what's going to happen, okay? You're not going to understand half of it, but people are going to be talking by shortwave, and if you can't get any other means of communication, you need that. Now, I admit that, the antenna, they don't give you the antenna, so you have to buy that separately, which I didn't realize at first. But in addition to this really cool device, my old friend Pete Peterson highly, highly recommended this. Now, this is not the CB. This is something different. Okay, this is a shortwave. This is shortwave radio. You can get these at Walmart, and they only cost like $150. But you can charge it up, turn it on, and then you can get everything on this. Apparently, you can get everything on this. So this is the one that Pete Peterson was geeking out about for years, and I bought 2 of them. So this is a Yaesu VX6R. Okay, there we go. It's in focus. A Yaesu VX6R. Again, no royalties, no product promotion. The good part about this, unlike the other one, the Midland, is that you got the antenna built in. So you just turn it on, and obviously there's a big learning curve on this in terms of figuring out how to use it, but you're going to have a lot of time on your hands, okay? So I highly recommend getting a Yaesu VX6R. And then another thing that you want to do is you get lots of lights. And so I found this thing. It's made by Energizer. It's just cheap. This is the kind of stuff that I've been buying lately. Whoa, you can turn it on. It makes my face look really crazy. But then also, you have this little thing here, and you can pull that open, and there's a little USB charger right in there. So you can charge. There's 4 D batteries in this thing, okay? These are available at Home Depot pretty much everywhere. So you can buy one of these, buy a bunch of D batteries. That way, even if you don't have anything else, you can still charge your phone maybe as much as 2 or 3 times off of those batteries just with one of these. So we have I think 2 of these right now. It also is very handy just to keep around the house if you don't have any lights. Now, regarding these kind of situations, we are told if you have a gas generator, you probably don't want to run it during the day because it alerts people to where you are. So another thing that would be wonderful is if you have solar panels and a battery to store the energy that the solar panels are making. And we're working on all that stuff here. Believe me, we are in full readiness mode. But get your Yaesu VX6R because you might hear some really cool stuff on here. People will be talking by CB radio, and you can get those. There's no special regulations. You are technically supposed to have a ham radio operator license before you use shortwave. I don't think anybody's going to care if we're in the middle of 10 days of darkness, okay? Anyway, let's go back to the slides. That was our fun little tour of the equipment you can buy. I am getting MSM calls asking me if I'm going to be arrested for threatening P with a firing squad. Such nonsense. My response, quote, I made no threat. I do not believe in violence. I do believe in the rule of law. I have reliable evidence that P has engaged in acts of T. My comments were rhetorical hyperbole. Any journalist should understand that concept. If my information is accurate, law enforcement will address what punishment, if any, should be administered, as they do with all criminals. I am a follower of Jesus Christ. I would never advocate violence against any person unless necessary in self-defense. The MSM accusations against me are just that, MSM accusations. And we all know that the members of the MSM are liars. Thank you for your support. You inspire me with your love of God, country, and freedom. My gosh, we're already almost on 2 hours, but I'm pretty close now. And again, I just zoomed in on it here so you can read it a little bit closer. You can pause it if you want to. So here's the next one, and I have up close on this too, so here we go. Today is a good day to pray and ask Almighty God to reveal every lie. We have one president at a time. Our president is DJT. When he speaks, listen carefully, meaning there's a lot of subtext going on. The president must take steps to save the fabric of our Constitution and preserve our liberty. Ignore the MSM. They are liars. Look at this, folks. To be safe, have 10 to 12 days of water, food, radio, etc. I hope it is not necessary, but it is entirely possible that bad actors will create violence in our major cities. You betcha. Trust T, but in the final analysis, you must trust the Lord. When some, and this is just his word for the supreme being, just interpret it how you will, whatever languaging works for you. When some see chaos, you will see a plan. Exactly. That's what we are always saying. Don't get caught up in the fear. This is not scary. It's very exciting, actually. T was reelected in a landslide victory, and he will serve for more. But he has a sworn duty to clean up the mess created over years by third-party bad actors, communists, and traitors, and he will. God bless you. 100,000 likes. On an alternative platform, here's another one that he wrote. This was yesterday. Good morning. Does the day seem surreal to you? Do you feel the revelation of truth occurring? Does it confuse you as you struggle to ascertain truth from lies? Are you impatient in wanting answers? Do you know who you can trust? Do you have an intense desire to see justice done? Change is difficult, painful, and demanding. The greater the change, the greater are all of those emotions. Our country and our world are undergoing changes, big changes. So stay steady at the helm as you navigate through turbulent waters. It will be worth it when you get to the other side. I believe America's best days lie ahead for all of us. Keep the faith and trust God. 137,000 likes. Obviously, he has a lot of Christian supporters, and that's great. So check this out. He reposted this one. 86,000 likes. Doesn't anybody see that what happened on January 6th is eerily similar? This is somebody else that wrote this, and then he just re-echoed it. Eerily similar to what happened to the parliament in this particular country, starting with G in 1933, when H and his group burnt the building down, but blamed it on communists. And this is a fact. You can go back and look at it. It's pretty widely acknowledged now. This was done to eliminate the enemy, and history is repeating itself. AOC has actually called for concentration camps, although technically now, we heard this from the Alliance, they're going to call them, I guess they're going to borrow from Chairman Mao and call them re-education camps. But the ridiculous thing, if you think about what happened in the country starting with C, and what our friend told us just today, we were talking about this. If you even talk about politics anywhere, somebody's going to rat you out, you're going to be arrested on sight, and if the interrogation proves that you had any plotting going on against what was already in power, you're dead. That's what they want to do. They want to put you in re-education camps. I'm sorry if it sounds radical, but this is the intel that we're getting, that they actually want to structure society. But hey, who cares? I love camping, right? This is not that kind of camp, folks. You're not going to get Gatorade, Vienna sausages, s'mores, and Coleman lanterns on this camp. You're not going to get tents and sleeping bags, and you're probably not going to be having a lot of fun. This kind of camping is not the kind of camping you want to do. And re-education may very well involve MK techniques. In other words, you might come out not remembering what you thought before you went in. And they have this technology. They've been using it for a long time. Once you go in there and you don't have any rights and you're shut behind the door, you think they wouldn't give you electric shocks, show you hypnotic films, give you, Rohypnol and tranquilizing drugs? You think they wouldn't give you scopolamine? You think they wouldn't put you in a chamber where you get electric shocks timed with things that you're seeing visually and hypnotic suggestions being given to you? That's what it is. That's what it is. It's MK. That's what it is. They're going to get you to the point that you forgot that you ever disliked anything about the government. You love Big Brother. It is astonishing that people are making this kind of a naked ploy for power. But we're already at 2 hours. I don't want to keep belaboring this point. There's more to talk about. Now we have this one. The Line of the Backstabbers, this political cartoon, which I think is hilarious. And then we're going to zoom in on this to the top part. I can honestly say I feel the president's pain. Because of my imperfect but best efforts to speak truth, I have been accused and attacked by many of my quote-unquote friends and sadly, even by my own family members. And then he gets all Christian, so get ready, folks, if you don't like this, but I totally can feel it. The Bible is clear. If you follow Jesus Christ, you shall be persecuted. So while the betrayals deeply hurt me, I do understand. I shall continue to speak truth and be fearless. My faith remains unshaken. How intense must it be in this man's life if his own family members are now yelling, hollering, screaming at him, telling him to stop, and he's still going to move forward anyway? God bless you, Mr. Wood. God bless you. I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Nobody deserves to be betrayed. Nobody deserves to be lied to. Nobody deserves to be attacked and yelled at by their own family members and former friends. It's horrifying because he's trying to do the right thing for you and for me and for this country and this planet. And we applaud him for his courage and bravery, 100%. Now check this out. This is again from Sydney's app group, and I highly recommend you get the app and you download it and you put it on your desktop and on your phone, because there's a desktop client browser and there's also one for your phone. Type in her name, subscribe to the group, and hopefully we'll get those numbers up a lot higher than 102,000, which is less than I get. People should be paying attention to this. You should be paying attention to this. So then she typed this in today at 11:22 a.m. All this stuff is now going to be from today. Just in, airspace around Reagan International Airport has been closed. And we don't really know why. They're saying it has something to do with the infection, but I doubt that's what it is. And then she says, just now, the flag at the White House has been lowered. That could have something to do with executive orders from the past. I don't know. I mean, I haven't had time to really study this. Maybe that's what you do when you declare insurrection. I have no idea. But there it is. This is from Dr. Michael Salla, our good friend who has never betrayed us. Thank you, Dr. Salla, for holding the line and always being loyal. You have no idea how valuable that is, Michael. Thank you so much, my friend. And I encourage everyone to follow him and read what he has to say, which means he just lost his Twitter page. Sorry, Dr. Salla. It seems like anytime I talk about somebody, they pretty much lose their whole account, so I apologize if that's what happens. Anyway, for right now, he's still up. Here's what he has to say. The IA was signed last night by the president according to multiple sources. Wow, it's already on, folks. All those laws, it's all happening. Reliable source is Michael Jaco, a former Navy SEAL who announced it just now on his YouTube channel. And then these various entities are all linked to foreign interference. And I watched the video. He only goes on for 8 minutes, and he thinks very much like me. And I applaud him as well for his courage and bravery and for the nice, short 8-minute summary that he was able to do. I can't do it, but I want you to read all this stuff, which takes some time. So now again, independently, we tried to look into this, and we can't get confirmation. So my own sources, I don't know. But apparently multiple sources online are saying that this did already happen. That might have something to do with the flag being at half-mast. It certainly seems to have something to do with all the aircraft traffic going in and out of D.C. being completely shut down. It certainly seems to have to do with the blackout that happened in these 3 countries overseas, and actions that are getting ready to happen for why we're being told, get ready for a blackout, get ready for a power outage, 10 to 14 days, shocking evidence. Get your Yaesu, what is it, VX6R, okay? You're gonna love having this, believe me, and it's cheap, and we don't make money on that. So that's just for you to go buy one. Go to Walmart, get one, please. They have them. Back to the slides. Below this thing, what Salla just wrote, A. Victor H says, I hear that the Pontiff has been arrested for being a you-know-what today. And then the other guy there, Jay Freedom, says, looks like this is happening, Pakistan power outage, and also in this other country. And then he links to it. Now, this website, of course, it takes over your whole computer. As soon as you start loading a page, you have to click stop right away, click the X. So that's what I did so I could actually get the text without all the ads in the way. And this is what Daily Mail actually said. Power restored after I blackout. I has got its power fully back today after a nationwide blackout plunged millions into darkness. As engineers worked to keep the network up after Sunday's outage, politicians said I had received a wake-up call to kickstart economic reforms including measures to boost power generation, reduce dependence on foreign power supplies, yada, yada, yada. The head of I's grid system said power had been fully restored across the country, but targeted power cuts were planned to avoid overloading the network. Blah, 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 blah. And then it says, storms. Authorities attributed the outage to a breakdown of electricity lines, some in heavy storms. Of course, yawn, yawn, yawn. From France and Switzerland, neighbors supplying some 17% of the power, but they disagreed on who was to blame because they can't prove anything. Has nothing to do with storms, has nothing to do with these other countries. Almost all of I's 57 million people, almost all of them, were affected by Sunday's blackout, a scale similar to last month's collapse in the U.S., Northeast, and Canada. If you had to arrest a bunch of people in one country, wouldn't you want to take the whole country's power down so that they can't figure out what's happening and they can't talk to each other? There's no phone, there's no power, there's no internet. What have we been saying for 11 years? It just happened. Apparently it just happened. They're blaming, they don't know who to blame. They don't know how to blame this 8-hour power outage. That 57 million people, the entire country has no power. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're in this country, you don't know what's going on and somebody could come for you, which is apparently what happened. So if this is true, holy crap, it's so amazing. Now for the next one. This is the same tweet that I actually had read to you before. I'm just showing it to you again. A lot of people were circulating this particular copy of it. Be prepared for the imminent blackout. The president will be using the EBS. We have a man of faith and courage at the helm, and he will be at the helm for 4 more as per the rule of law. Pray for our president, our country, and all. Steady. And then this person retweeted below confirmation of what David has been saying for months, years, some of it. This is crazy. Thank you, Adam, for giving me my props, as they would say in Black Urban Vernacular, or BUV. Got my props. All right, here we go. Next thing. I just showed you the full thing now, and this is the top of it. I am confident the Secret Service knows the difference between rhetorical hyperbole and the threat of imminent harm. This is him referring again to his the threats that he's getting and the banning that he's getting. We are witnessing efforts by the high-tech companies and MSM to end free speech in this country. Will never happen. Follow me on Clout, HUB. I guess that's a different one. I haven't even been there yet, but P is about to be shut down by Amazon, Apple, etc. All the companies that support you-know-what. So there's a new one there. But again, you can also go to the app in question Sydney's posting on, and she's doing it every night. And there's lots of stuff coming out. It's amazing. It's the new 17. You've got to see it, folks. Oh, I'm not going to say the name out loud. You have to read it. It's you can see it there on the bottom line, CLOUT. And then after that, we have HUB. So that's just put those letters together. Oh, she's the attorney who is working with the president on these cases related to the E. The app starts with a T and ends with Graham. And it has to do with the first invention and how those messages were sent over a telegraph, if that gets as close as I can get. So then at the bottom, P has removed a supposedly violent comment about Mike P by Pro-T lawyer Lynn W. So there you go. They actually took it down, and everybody was hoping that this was going to work. And then here's MSN, BG's company, B. Bill, you know who he is. His company is dancing a victory stride. Oh, we've removed it from this app, so you can't even talk. P, the free speech social network, reportedly removed a post by Wood in which the Pro-T lawyer threatened violence. Supposedly, he said, get the F squads ready, and he goes first. But again, this is like, of course, as he said, he doesn't advise doing this. Nobody ourselves should ever do this. This is all done legally. If the law requires that punishment, then that's the punishment that would happen. We don't know, okay? So he kind of stepped in it here. I would have never, ever, ever said something like this publicly. And now he's had, you got to be really careful what you say. And so, yeah, he's getting a big backlash. This message, along with a few others, violated their TOS and was removed, according to the CEO. Violent threats spread around the internet this week after P distanced himself from the president's efforts to, look at how they're wording this, to overthrow. Oh, my God. Talk about projection. You guys are the ones that are trying to do that. In a January 6th letter, Pence said he would preside over the counting of these Vs without intervening. Well, I feel really bad because you know what? You saw it, folks. I was here. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Folks who I know personally, who I've hung out with personally, said that he is the greatest guy. He's like Mr. Dudley Do-Right. You know, he's always doing the right thing, or so it seems. Squeaky clean, would never do anything wrong. But maybe, just maybe, he's been plotting this entire time, and he's been hiding his true intentions, and he's just acting like he's really in, but he's not the whole time. Another thing that I didn't get a tweet of here, picture of, or maybe it was in the last one, I think it was, about the president playing chess. I did show you that. So this is all like high-level chess. The art of war, Sun Tzu, you appear weak to encourage your enemy to attack so they don't know what they're getting into. And that exactly seems to be what's going on here. Exactly seems to be what's going on here. So check this out. This is the next thing from Sydney on the app here that runs off of a telegraph system. That's not what it's called. It ends with Graham, as I said. Okay, here we go. Amazon to shut down this particular app today at 11. This is today, 7:09 a.m. She wrote this at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time today. The platform will be offline for up to a week as it has to rebuild itself from scratch, says the CEO. But now nobody wants to host them, as you'll see in a minute. So it's probably never coming back. And now look at this. This is insanity. 2:30 p.m. today. 62,000 likes. There are now 210 co-sponsors of the Articles of I of the President, says Democratic Congressman Ted. 117th USC has 100 senators, 435 representatives, and 6 non-voting delegates. That's an astonishing number. 210. Why? Because if these revelations are true, they're all going to jail. They're absolutely terrified. And I do want to hold space for that, okay? For these people, it's the end of the world. It is the end of the effing world for the DS. And they don't care if the whole world goes down, honestly. If they're going to lose, they want to take the whole world out with them. There's been rumors of all this stuff that they might try to do when this happens. We've been very nervous. And they've literally now surrounded the White House, 7-foot-tall barricades and 7,000 troops, National Guard coming out of Virginia. The Virginia governor is supportive of this steal. So these guys that are out there now are there to stop anybody from coming in and trying to grab anybody in the White House. Wow. And you don't think anything's going on? I watched the movies. I mean, I'm not going to show them because anytime you show a video on a live stream, you could get deleted very easily, lose your channel for 3 months. Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much, Linda. Last year, you took me down for 3 months right before the conference we were both speaking at with a spurious claim. I'm over it. And, you know, we wish her all the best. We really do. This is a war, folks. It keeps happening. These things keep happening. So back to the slides once again. I don't want to keep dragging this on. Here he is, right? The CEO says no one wants to host their website after being dropped by Amazon. So there you go. It's probably gone forever. So just get on this app and you'll be all set. And this is probably where we're going to need to go. The other thing, the clout whatever, might work too for a little while. So then this particular guy, Mark, he's kind of the bad boy of our community. He says a lot of funny stuff. He's kind of a rude guy, but okay, I'm willing to hear him out. And so he's fighting back against somebody on the bottom there who said, well, you know, social media isn't the only way for politicians to communicate. There's also old school media, which was their only option for decades. As if you could get away with that, right? So then Mark says, live streaming his press conference would be a violation of YT's terms of service. And they'll cut the feed because he will say the E was stolen. And you're not allowed to say that anymore in America since these folks took over. Okay. So, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. And I don't even think I've actually covered all of it so far. I'm just trying to give you some highlights of all the things that apparently are getting ready to go down. Nancy might actually get hauled off tomorrow. There are some very significant concerns in the alliance because right for now, at least, the major part of the military is pushing back and not supporting this being done. That is a gigantic concern. If we have one part of the military of the U.S. attacking another part of the military of the U.S. on a larger scale, like these 7,000 troops around D.C., around the White House, and that whole area, including Congress, of course. If that's all true, which it is, you can go watch it. They're there. But if they actually start fighting, that's called a civil war. That's the second American Civil War, not the first one, the second one. It begins if that starts to happen. We don't want to see our own men and women in uniform having to be lost over this. And what I hope is going to happen is that evidence comes out first, and the evidence is so shocking, just like a lot of these tweets say, that the public will demand justice. They will demand that this be done. And then it doesn't matter if there's 7,000 guys around, because they have to stand down, because nobody is going to put up with this. We need to learn this evidence. We need to find out the truth. And I think what's going to happen is probably a series of events where the public, I think the opposition, the Dems, or whatever you want to call them, the DS, I think they assumed that the president would lead with some massive strike, but that's not what it's looking like. And I've always said the plans are very flexible, very fluid. They could go many, 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 many different ways. What I think might happen is a series of arrests, and then as the arrests happen, the evidence starts to come out. There's probably going to be the use of this system. There's probably going to be power outages, but it's all going to happen in stages. It's not going to be one big burst. So, as a result of the briefing that I actually received, I was actually asked by the Alliance directly to please do this tonight. How many do we have watching live right now?
23,000.
23,000 people. That is incredible. That's even better than last time. So going to the final slide here, we are again going to use the meditation technology, as we could call it that, even though it's not really a technology, because 7,000 people meditating together have reduced war, crime, terrorism, fatalities, all these horrible things by 72%. So again, as I love to talk about this one, this is not in dispute. Let's go back to a camera here. Yeah. This is not in dispute. Now you said, well, David, you spent 2 hours and 15 minutes so far. It looks like 2 hours and 10 because we were 5 minutes late. Believe me, I needed to be. Just trying to get this all done. We've spent a lot of time talking, but I never mentioned anything that's in the title of the video. Well, obviously the title is not exactly what it's really about. You have to be a lot more circumspect these days in talking about these things, but the title of the video is extremely important, and I want to share with you why that is. When I was living in Los Angeles, I spent an entire year in Hollywood trying to get a Hollywood movie made, having no idea that it was so controlled that that would never be possible. We raised money. We actually got an A-list screenwriter, Jim Hart, who wrote the movie Contact, worked with all the best people, and we actually have several versions of that Convergence screenplay that we actually wrote for the money that we raised. When we tried to get into development, nobody wanted to develop the movie. And in fact, later on, when my colleague Danny and Brinkley was checking around with all his top Hollywood people, believe me, everybody knows who I am. And they know that I have a huge audience, but nobody wanted to do anything with me. So we struck out on television deals, movie deals, everything. Nobody would go anywhere near this. So I've had to stay independent. I'm literally unemployable by the mainstream. They will not go anywhere near me. And it's probably these shoes, Alice. Why don't we show them the shoes real quick? You got a telescoping camera there. You can. Anyway, yes. So I'll show you myself. These are the shoes that I chose to wear today, just to be a little bit pizzazzy for you. We got to have some kind of fun in all of this. Okay, so let's talk about screenwriting. Right? These are the shoes that I bought, thinking that I did use them once when I met Steven Tyler at his benefit. So anyway, fun shoes. People were asking me to wear another blazer again, but I said, well, you got to get the shoes. The shoes are pretty freaking cool. They look like gold. It means this guy's important, right? There's something happening here that's cool with Mr. Wilcock. Why would he wear those shoes? They look like tap dance shoes. You can insult me. I'm giving you red meat here, low-hanging fruit to insult your buddy. Anyway, back to the point. Here we go. So when we go back in time to those days when I was trying to get those jobs to happen, and I spent years trying to get this film made. I started it in 2005. It's the reason I moved to LA in 2006 is to do this one movie that we were raising money for, but we could never get it into development. We were blocked and blocked and blocked and blocked. Jim was showing it to all kinds of people in Hollywood. It was a great script. Nobody wanted to do anything. It was unbelievable. So to get back to the point, during this time, before we hired Jim, we didn't hire Jim till 2009, and I've been working on it since 2005, raising money, investors, everything. I spent an entire year reading books on how to write film screenplays. An entire year where that's all I did from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. Every day I sat in the chair and I read, and I have all these margin notes. I went through about 12 or 13 different books very heavily, and I learned the underlying DNA of how to write a movie. The weirdest thing about how to write a movie is that they always come out in 3 parts, and they call it 3 acts, a 3-act structure. The second act is twice as big as the first and the third, so there's actually 4 units. If you divide the second act in half, you get 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. The 3 acts could basically be called setup, conflict, and resolution, the 3 parts of a story. You got to set up the story, you got to have a main character and a villain. The main character needs to have some quest. This is what all films are. There has to be a quest presented to the main character, which the main character, he or she, debates about and then finally decides to join. There's even guidelines about what's supposed to happen to the character, what page number it's supposed to happen on. I learned all this stuff. And then there's 2 different versions. There's the guy that wrote Save the Cat, and he's advocating shrinking the screenplay down to 110 pages, whereas everybody else recommends 120, with the idea being that 1 page is 1 minute of time on the screen, usually when you're reading a screenplay. Okay, so I'm going through all this screenwriting stuff, and ultimately what it came to was that there's always a main character. The villain is the mirror image of the main character if his or her flaws took over, and the flaws then run the character. The hero has to be set up for this quest. Then when the second act begins, that's usually page 30 in a 120-page screenplay. Okay, so you get the first 30 minutes of setup. Then the hero, as they call every person in the movie, the lead character is called the hero. The hero, which is a male or a female, then has to go into the magical world. That's the beginning of Act 2. That's the initiation beginning. Typically, the first half of Act 2 is called fun and games. It's when cool things happen and they're training and they're learning, and that's when they meet the mentor and they get the talisman a lot of times, which is an object that might be very useful for you to have. This is your talisman of the day, folks. Your, what is it called? VX6R, okay? You got to have a talisman. A lot of times that's in a movie. It'll be some kind of object that's given to them by the mentor that becomes very useful later on. We have a lot of cool talismans going on now. In our actual hero's journey story on Earth, we have laptops, we have servers, we have affidavits, we have whistleblowers, all kinds of really cool, tangible things, you know, stuff that was smuggled out, apparently. So this is very exciting. The third act is where the quest is solved. So setup, conflict, resolution. Resolution is the third act. Now here's the thing. Before you go into the third act, this is the most important thing I'm going to tell you about all of this, folks. Before you go into the third act, the hero must appear to have died. Does that mean that every movie has the main character appear to die and then not actually be dead because they come back to life? No. If it's like a romantic comedy, for example, this is what the books would say. If it's a romantic comedy, you don't have one of the characters actually die or appear to have died, but what will happen is that the quest will appear to have died. Now, this is a very important thing. I had said in the previous video, the Dark Night of the Soul was something Jung came up with. Many, many people wrote in and corrected me and said it was originally from St. John of the Cross. And maybe David doesn't want to promote Christianity or something. That's not true. So yeah, it's St. John of the Cross who first came up with this concept of the Dark Night of the Soul. or what is called in the books the all is lost point. This usually would happen on page 85, where page 90 is when you go into the third act. Now, this is very important. You think about Avatar. The lead character appears to have died in Avatar. You think about E.T. Elliot, the kid, has got this extraterrestrial friend. The E.T. appears to have died. His heart light goes out. His skin is all white, like he's covered in white oatmeal. And Elliot is crying. And I was crying as a kid when I saw E.T. I forget how old I was. But I never cried. And that movie made me cry because I really believed E.T. was dead. So the whole trick in screenwriting is to trick people into believing the hero is really actually dead. And then, that's page 85. You have to spend 5 pages of screen time from page 85 to 90 with the hero appearing to be actually dead, or in other cases, the quest appears to be dead. The hero himself or herself might not be physically dead. Yeah, we're getting there real soon. She's holding up Joan of Arc, Joan of Arc. You want to hurry this along a little bit? Are you getting tired?
No,
I'm pretty tired. Yeah, we're going to get to Joan of Arc. Believe me, this is all... You got to just admire the setup. It takes time to set these things up. But I'm trying to do it as fast as I can. And we're about to get to Joan of Arc, I promise. So page 85, the all is lost point. The hero has to appear to have lost for 5 pages. This is going on right now, folks. That's why I'm calling this the global all is lost point, the global dark night of the soul. The negative has finally been shown in all of its glory and all of its terror, and this is also what happens when the hero gets defeated on page 85. That's the first time in the whole movie that you really get to see how evil the villain is, how dark and scary and satanic and horrific the evil of that villain is, okay? And remember, the villain is just the mirror image of the hero if the hero's flaws are not worked out and if they take over. 5 pages of death where you don't appear to be alive. 5 pages where it appears the quest is completely lost. Now, here's the thing. Page 90 is what initiates the third act. Page 90 is when you find out that the hero is not dead, the hero resurrects, and now in the resurrection, the hero has a renewed idea of how to defeat the villain. Something comes in, there's some insight, it happens on page 90, right around there, where the hero figures out, yes, I can get back in the fight, I can win, and I can defeat this evil. Now, when you go into the third act, the archetypes that Hollywood is basing all this stuff off of also have a very, very common plot device that is part of this software that we all have. I'm going to explain that in just a second. There's a plot device they use as you go into the third act. Now, the hero, first of all, is a person who, and they always say this, you need 6 things that need fixing. You got to set up the flaws. It's very important that the hero at the beginning of the movie have these obvious flaws. So at the beginning of a movie, it might not even involve dialogue, but you'll see things showing you that this person is not really locked into life. They're screwing up. Once you go into the third act and the hero figures out how to defeat the villain, it looks like it might not be possible to work, but there's a chance. And then, this is the all-important point, allies that you meet at the beginning of the second act, when you enter into the magical world, you meet these allies. They return to help you. So think about what happens with Avatar. Avatar, man, James Cameron followed this thing down to the letter. The hero's journey, the archetypes, the filmic structure, what page number to do it on, what plot points have to happen on what page numbers. It is paint by numbers, Avatar. I'm sorry, it's a great movie, but it is. It's very much formulaic when you understand what these books are saying. What happens after the hero, when the defeat starts to happen, it's the blue people and all their funny, cool animals that they're riding on that suddenly show up out of nowhere to ride into battle and defeat the bad guys. So there's the cavalry that shows up. There's this huge army that shows up. And by the way, I want to point out this is also the story of Christ. The hero's journey is the story of Christ, and apparently Jesus had to go through this entire process as part of fulfilling this galactic pattern that we all have, the hero's journey. This is why you have to write movies this way, because they found out that watching these movies is like kind of going to church. You're hearing the hero's journey, you get it in a nice fast speed, you get it in one digestible 2-hour burst of the whole story from beginning to end. In the real life, it doesn't happen this way. So it could be a number of days where we're in the turmoil and the all is lost point, and the dark night of the soul could still get a lot worse than it already is now. That could happen. But when the third act begins, it's the allies from all over that you met when you went into the magical world that ride in to aid the hero. Now, in this case, I do believe the hero is the president and his allies. Who are the allies that are going to ride in to save the day? I believe that's the people. And when I say the people, I'm also talking about many, many people in all different levels of positions of power. To me, if you look at it from a strictly practical perspective, this is the most asinine thing they ever tried to do, to overthrow this country, thinking they're not going to get any pushback, thinking that the people that have grown up pledging allegiance to the flag, red, white, and blue all the way, that they're just going to stand down. And where are you going to find the staff to arrest all these people? Where are you going to find the staff to herd people off to an MK Ultra re-education camp? You're not. There's not enough people. I was told many years ago in my dreams there's not enough people to hold the guns, and there won't be. It's never going to happen. You can't create these things anymore because it requires the consent of the governed. Government requires the consent of the governed. Okay? Therefore, what we're seeing right now is something that they're trying to do, but it's like a pathetic fantasy. It will never be possible. Nobody would ever go along with it. And there's so many people from all over the world. And look at what's happening. Allies come in at the beginning of the third act to save the day. We got allies coming in from foreign countries. We got the talisman. Now we know how it was done. What was the computer that it flowed through? That it happened out of this one country starting with an I in Rome. This is huge. These are foreign countries coming in. These are allies that you make at the beginning of the second act. The allies come in. The hero has to appear to be dead for 5 pages. Again, Jesus is just one of many examples. Every film does this, but him dying on the cross and then being resurrected is the Jesus version of the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, an investigative mythologist, said that there are many, many other examples of this from all different cultures around the world, and they all, interestingly, seem to be correlated with this concept of the change into a new reality. I've been talking about ascension for so many years. You've heard me talk about this. I've told you life on Earth is going to change so dramatically you will not believe it. There's going to be all these things that will be exposed, these dark, ugly truths that are going to come to light. You're going to learn about all this stuff. It's going to be very shocking, but it also paves the way for real freedom, because if these people ever get defeated, which I think is going to happen, there's literally trillions of dollars of money that they stole that is going to be released back to the people, multi-billion-dollar prosperity packages designed to rebuild infrastructure, create jobs, renew our infrastructure, renew our lives, give us clean water, healthy organic food that is not going to kill you slowly, products that are made for your medical health to actually be healthy, not this pharmacidal stuff, right? A world in which we have forbidden technology that gets released. This is very important. Gravitational repulsion, anti-gravity. It's been hidden from us, but it exists. Limitless over-unity free energy. You buy a car, you never have to go get gas because it's always going to drive. Whatever it is that you own, you never have to fill it up again. Or maybe after 100,000 miles you have to charge the battery or something. It depends on what we use. So anti-gravity, free energy. As I said before, medical technology devices. Most of the things that we're dying from, we don't need to ever suffer with. All of those things can be cured or at least greatly reduced with technology that's classified. And then we also have a garbage processing thing. Elizabeth, do you want to just remind everybody real quick about what we saw with the garbage processing and how amazing that is?
We saw a machine about the size of the back of a truck, and you can put anything in it, and water comes out, and then one other substance like either diesel fuel or carbon.
Well, it's diesel and carbon, yeah.
You can program it, like different things come out, but pure water, and so you can put anything in it. So it's really amazing, and we've seen it. They asked us if we wanted to drink the water. We really didn't. because it came from, they put tires in and then pure water came out, but it's around. So.
And I want to be very clear, now that we're getting close enough to this stuff, that we are taking significant steps to get all of these things out there. This is not just something we're talking about. This is something we're involved with. We've seen some of these technologies. We've seen the garbage technology. It puts out 10,000 gallons of gasoline a day and 100,000 gallons, or I think it's 1 million gallons of distilled water a day, off of 1,000 metric tons of municipal solid waste. Some of you have written in and asked me for more information on this. We do plan on building these on a large scale. I would love to see that get financed and developed. They cost $35 million a piece, which really isn't that bad when you're talking about government-style budgets. I've been trying to figure out how much it would cost us to get all of our garbage cleaned up, because think about it. If you get rid of the need for gasoline, and now you're producing whatever still you need with these machines, by the way, but now you have the over unity energy, free energy. If we stop polluting, if we stop creating pollution within a certain set period of time, if all this money comes out and we have a new industrial boom and we can do all this stuff, then at that point, we're not creating new pollution pretty quickly. We have a strategy in mind with these same garbage processing devices to actually clean up the Pacific garbage patch. And we have a pilot program in another area that we're going to do first to demonstrate proof of concept, okay? Once we've no longer created new pollution, we can use a technology just like this, of which I'm not aware of anything else that works like this. You can go back and clean up what we already have. We can remediate landfills. Landfills will become very valuable mines. We will start mining garbage for money, for fuel. Good money and water and things that people need, okay? So the garbage becomes a valuable asset. If we can clean up after what we've done, it's not necessarily the end of the world, folks. It looks like the end of the world, and I have always felt that this is a false bottom. It's the dark night of the soul. It's on page 85. The hero has to appear to be dead. It sure as hell looks like that's what's been going on, because Congress threw everything out on January 6th. They did this weird thing that everybody can see through, letting people in, and now all this stuff is apparently about to happen, and we're going to do this meditation very soon. But now I want to bring it back to Joan of Arc, or Joan d'Arc, D''Arc in the original form. This is in the 1400s in France, and at this time there was an occupation by the British. They were suffering profoundly. They were having terrible, terrible, terrible suffering. To give you a sense of how much the French people were suffering, remember that there was an embargo on food going into their country with the intent to starve them to death. The French people were very resourceful. Instead of starving to death, they started to eat things like the mushrooms that they saw growing around that were healthy. Those are the morel mushrooms. They started to eat snails. That became escargot. They started to eat whatever wild game they had around. That became rabbit, and there's still rabbit dishes. So France has kind of embraced this history and embraced these dishes that originally came out of total starvation and desperation. You wouldn't normally eat a rabbit. You wouldn't normally eat a snail. They had nothing else. The British were literally killing them off. They're starving to death. Joan of Arc gets these divine visions showing her that, let's go to the middle camera here. Joan of Arc gets these divine visions, supposedly, right? Showing where God supposedly appeared to her in visions and dreams, and I don't remember all the details. There's lots of different versions of the story, but the basic bottom line of the archetype is that she lost. She was defeated. She was killed. She actually died. They tried to do this uprising. They tried to fight back against the British, and it didn't work. And she was put to death. Is that the end of the story? Well, obviously, if that was the end of the story, then you wouldn't know about Joan of Arc, right? It would just be, oh yeah, she was a martyr. You know, I think there's... No. What happened is, in the aftermath of Joan of Arc's death, the people heard about the story. They were outraged. They were horrified. And what did they do? They all wanted to believe that what Joan of Arc told them was true. They wanted to believe. So on their own, they decided that they did not want this story to end in disaster, and they used her death as a motivation to rise up against tyranny, and the entire country rose up. The entire country stood and fought, and they beat the British, and they got them out, and they restored their freedom. And that's how it happened. Now, did the beings, or whatever it was, did God, if you want to use that term, did God tell Joan of Arc something real? Well, at first it looked like no. And ultimately, I think the point is it didn't really matter, because the people were inspired. The people wanted to believe that she had gotten real information and that there was salvation coming, and that's the inspiration that led to them coming up. That's what happened at the Dark Night of the Soul. The Dark Night of the Soul in this case was her physical death. And then, as the third act begins, because remember, it's always the same pattern, as the third act begins after page 85 would be where Joan of Arc, let's go back over here now. Page 85 would be where Joan of Arc actually died, right? Dead for 5 screenwriting pages, but then in page 90, she's not back alive, but that's where you get, as I said, the allies, all these different cool magical allies that you meet in the magical world. When you enter the magical world on page 30 at the beginning of Act 2, you meet your allies. You meet your mentor. The mentor usually dies in the film, right? But he gives you the talisman, and then you use it at a critical moment to fight the bad guy. The point I want to make right now is that the allies swoop in at the beginning of Act 3, and it's all the allies coming in that actually cause the victory to occur, that cause the quest to be achieved. So what I've argued in my book Synchronicity Key and other books like it, but especially that one, is that the hero's journey is a galactic evolutionary template. Now what in the hell did he just say? Galactic evolutionary template? Okay. I know that this stuff gets a little esoteric, and that's kind of the other part of my work, right? Besides this kind of stuff. But suffice it to say that we wouldn't be making all of our movies follow this script if there wasn't some software that is deeply installed in our subconscious mind about this hero's journey. It's why when everybody gets inspired to tell a story, that the story comes out the same. And now they've studied how much the story is the same, so you can actually tweak your story to make sure that you get the right inspiration and that you tell it properly. Because if you tell the story properly, it's a big hit and everybody wants to hear it, or theoretically. So then Hollywood says, let's just cover the spread and let's make every movie have to follow this structure. So they're all going to do this thing that makes people want to watch the movie, and most of them do. So Joan of Arc fulfills this galactic, this is what I think is going on, and what it says in esoteric sources like the Law of One that I've studied. That there's actually a galactic mind, and there's a mind in our solar system from our sun and from our planet. And these are benevolent forces. The universe is a loving, thinking, intelligent being. And you are unified with that being. You are not lost. You can never die. You will always exist. You will always be conscious, and you will always continue evolving. And you will inevitably evolve to a being who is ultimately going to be loving, kind, patient, forgiving, accepting of others, generous, all these kinds of great qualities. This is what the universe is steering us towards. The universe has an intrinsic benevolent design. And I do believe that. And I actually can prove that benevolent design written into the physics, as I've done on many other occasions. And is in all the books, including the most recent one here. And there it is. I'm going to do it once. Okay, Awakening in the Dream is the latest one. Talks about all this stuff, has prophecies of all the things that are going on now. I don't need to promote this to make money. I get I don't even know what it is. I might make 75 cents a book on something like this. I'm not even sure. It's not very much, folks. It's like minimum wage for all the time I spend. But I wrote the book because I want you to read it. Because the prophecies talk about all this stuff, and they go beyond where we are now. So I do understand the fear and the concern expressed by some in the Alliance, I'm not going to say who, that this might not work out, that right now the aspects of the military are not supporting it. But I think that's all going to change, and I think the way to do it is by doing targeted arrests first and not doing it all at once. But I could be wrong. I'm not in charge. I get very, very limited information, tiny little table scraps, that's it. Mostly what I'm doing is looking at the same stuff that you guys could see, and I get little bitty extra pieces, but that's it. Hardly even any conversation, honestly. It's not what you think. I'm on a very limited feed because there's so much operational security on all this. So, the hero's journey, I believe, is being enacted right now, and I believe that we are just at the beginning of the third act, where the allies swoop in and the quest is solved. This will require divine intervention. This will require things to happen that we haven't seen yet, things that we haven't prepared for. But I hope and I pray that doing this meditation will give us a balance. So, Elizabeth, you want to just announce how many people we got live? Because we're going to start the meditation very momentarily here.
We have 22,477.
Wow. Thank you all for holding space with us and taking the time to do this. And please don't sign off when we do this meditation. This is a direct request from the Alliance for us to do this meditation because they know we have the numbers, and this is a very powerful tool. This is over 3 times higher. The crowd that we have right now, you watching this with me, is over 3 times higher than what the Maharishi people used as 7,000 people to get a 72% reduction worldwide. And I also want to be clear that this will cast a shadow into the future. So if we do it now, it's like a palliative care for the next, well, that's end-of-life care. That's what Danian says. It's Uncle Mama in my head. Palliative care. He's always talking about that. It's not. It's end-of-life care for certain groups of people, okay, but not everybody. And certainly, I do not. When I look at this thing, when I look at what's happening in the world, I am astonished, folks, at how precisely it follows the hero's journey, how precisely it follows the archetypes that I talked about in my book, that we are clearly seeing the all is lost point. We are clearly seeing the dark night of the soul. And I absolutely believe the Joan of Arc is going to happen. The appearance of defeat leads to all these allies rising up and jumping into the fight. And that includes people in positions of influence where they can actually get something done. Everybody likes to say, what can we do? What can we do? Well, we can do this meditation. 7,000 people getting together changed the free will of 3/4 of everyone on Earth so that they didn't do acts of violence, and they were obviously more compassionate and happier. So this means that by doing this now and by continuing, this is very important, continuing to practice it in the days ahead. Another thing that I've been hearing is many people in the Alliance are starting to have really bizarre, terrifying problems in their personal lives. For example, we're hearing reports, and I know this sounds crazy, but we're hearing reports of Alliance people having things like shadow beings appearing in their house, feeling of presence in the room, a dark energy, sounds happening, bad nightmares, feelings of entities trying to get into their minds. And so, Elizabeth, really quickly, would you like to tell people a little bit about sacred boundaries and the importance of bringing in some of these ancient lineage teachings from the East in fighting against an adversary? Because I think most of our audience is not aware of the spiritual component of the battle. So if you could just give us a little 2 or 3 minute synopsis of sacred boundaries, that would be great.
One of my favorite topics, sacred boundaries. Well, in the spiritual battle, it's important to always remain good-hearted, to always cleave to the good, and to defend that which is good from what may be trying to attack it, if you will. And the martial arts is a way of doing this. And one of my favorite ones is Aikido, the way of peace, which is more about deflecting and grounding energy rather than meeting it with attack. So, and then also you are a powerful spiritual being. And with your word, you can decree. And so one of the simplest ways to decree your space for the good God and for light is to simply command with a strong voice that this, you can make it up yourself. You can say, this place is of the light, or this space is of God, and say it with a voice of power, and that commands the energy of goodness, divine, God into your space.
If they believe in Christ, you said they can say, this place is of the light, this place is of the Christ.
Yes.
But that's optional. It's up to you.
Yes, you can make it your own, but you're commanding You're using your co-creative divine power because you are a child of the divine, a child of God. You're using that co-creative power to command that the spaces of the light. If you believe in Jesus Christ or the Christ, the spaces of the light, the spaces of Christ.
So if somebody wakes up in their bed and they feel like there's a shadow being in the room or a sense of oppressive evil, how does this actually work in practice, what you're saying exactly?
Well, I like to work with the archangels, so I will call in the archangels. I invoke the archangels of the four directions, Ariel, Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel, and I ask you to be with me here now and surround me with your protection. So that's something that I've used for 20 years now.
But the simple phrase, the spaces of the light, the spaces of the Christ, or however you choose to say it.
The way I say it is the spaces of the light, the spaces of the Christ. The spaces of the light, the spaces of the Christ. Only the light may be here, all else must go. And you say that with a voice of power. You can say the same thing with your body or somebody else's body. Put your hands on your body and say the same thing. So that's what I use, my simplest way to command my space for the light.
So if you don't act in integrity, then you are vulnerable. And this is something that everybody who's functioning in a military capacity or in any type of defensive capacity, we all really need to understand that we live in a spiritual universe. There are both good guys and bad guys up there looking at us. There's a glass ceiling. Everything that we do is seen by both the good guys and the bad guys. We have no secrets whatsoever. And when you do evil things, evil beings send you more energy to strengthen those thoughts. When you do good things, good beings send you more energy to strengthen those thoughts. It's up to you which one to choose. So when you start getting these negative greetings, if you get these attacks, it's very important that the warriors who are fighting this cabal understand that these people are going to be using black magic. They are going to be using their intent. They're going to be praying to hurt you. And they're going to be working in concert with non-physical entities that will assist them in that process. There is a benevolence to the universe. There is, I believe, a one infinite creator, and it is love, and it is light. And you will be protected if you invoke that protection, providing that your actions line up with your words, right?
My microphone was actually on the ground, so people couldn't hear me.
Oh, they couldn't hear you.
That's interesting, yes. A nice little negative reading.
Do you want to say a little bit more then, if you got the microphone in the right place now? If nobody could hear you?
Okay,
Sorry
I'll
about that,
just
everybody.
say it again now when I have a microphone here, because it ended up on the floor.
You're supposed to wear it.
I don't know how it ended up on the floor.
Okay, it happens. It happens. We're very, very scattered here, folks.
We're doing our best. So I'll just say it again. This is what I say to command the light of the divine in my space or my body. I say, this space is of the light, this space is of Christ, this space is of the light, this space is of Christ. Only the light may be here, all else must go. And sometimes I'll walk around my room and I'll smudge my room. So that's how I clear space, and that's how I command the light in my body as well.
So the short answer is that you can invoke protection. You can invoke protection from however you see the Creator, and you actually want to armor yourself with light. You want to envision a white egg around your body of white light with no cracks in it. And you want to just, like in the Shinto tradition, which I learned and studied about in Japan, they actually clap like this. And so you use the clap, and as you move your hands like this, you imagine that as each clap happens, you're strengthening that light egg, and you also want to see ripples of light shooting out from the egg as well. All right, so now I want to actually use this technology, so please don't sign off yet, because whether you think this is going to work or not, it's very important that we try. Because there's a great scientific pedigree for this, and us doing this may actually affect the outcome so that it's not as crazy as what the worst case scenarios that they're looking at might be. So right now I would invite you to put both feet flat on the floor, close your eyes with me, and let's begin this meditation. I invite you to take a nice deep breath in and hold it for a moment, and just easily let it go. And then take another nice deep breath in, and again. So relaxed as you just let it go. Following your breath like a path through a beautiful enchanted forest as you've entered into the magical kingdom, the world beyond. There's all kinds of unforeseen things in the magical world. There are tests, tribulations, but there is ultimately triumph and victory. Facing off against the great villain and the hordes of minions led by the great villain, systematically, as you become more and more relaxed, seeing how this galactic story gets told over and over again. Learning that Hollywood found out that it's in their best interest to write all films on this pattern because it's so deep in our spirits, in our subconscious. The peace that comes available to us like an oasis when we open ourselves to true silence. And when we open ourselves to becoming that hero, to going on our own hero's journey quest for justice, for peace, for righteousness. We have the freedom to choose how we wish to live our lives. And as we become even more relaxed, we trust again and we affirm the benevolence of this universe. We affirm the divine hand of protection that extends over all of us, such that all of us will get what we really are here to see and learn in this lifetime. The planet does not appear to be destined for some fiery catastrophe, ending in pain and tears and global dictatorship. All the dreams that I have been having are showing me a positive outcome in the ultimate sense. And as we breathe more deeply, as you breathe in, imagine those fires disappearing. Fires that would have happened that never happened. As you become more and more relaxed, imagine everyone else feeling more relaxed, calming down, taking a breath, going a little bit deeper into meditation than they might otherwise do, spending time praying, genuinely asking God or whatever the higher forces are that you identify with for help. It's okay to ask. In fact, it is imperative to ask. And therefore, if you choose to join me, as we're deeply, deeply relaxed, let us work together to ask for what we want. O Father, Mother God, Creator of the universe, we are on our knees, we are in tears, and we beg you, please, God, help us from these people who do not know you. They do not know your love. They do not know your humility. They do not care about anyone but themselves and their own elite groups. They believe they are untouchable. They believe they are beyond punishment, beyond exposure. They believe they can rule by force and jam anything down our throats if it's done properly. We hereby attest and certify that we have passed the examinations that you asked us to pass. We have examined the true adversary on the global scale. We have identified it, and it is ourselves. People who look normal, people who don't have black eyes or fangs or horns coming out of their heads. They look normal. But under cover of darkness, they practice unspeakable acts. Acts that are reprehensible, acts that are terrifying, acts that should be genuinely stopped, for they are criminal. And we do not accept that these people have the right, the permission, or the authority to rule us by force, to shove us into re-education camps, to take our lives away from us, to reduce our numbers drastically by various poisons that they would seek to feed us or inject into us, or any of a number of other means of how things might happen or are happening. As we continue to affirm our divine protection, going deeper and deeper, even in the midst of all this chaos and all this turmoil, we see the silver thread linking this together with a galactic template, the same story we see in the Joan of Arc storyline, where this heroic, inspired quest appears to have been defeated, that all is lost, there is no hope. And in that case of Joan of Arc, the hero was actually defeated. It seemed like the story was over. But then the allies that were met when you entered the magical world all come back to save the day in a glorious cavalry. We hereby pray and ask that the events that are about to unfold be done as peacefully as possible, that it happen in stages where people can assimilate the information and not be unduly confused, that there will be a minimal loss of life, if it needs to happen at all. Maybe it doesn't need to happen. However it happens, we ask with sincere humility, with tears in our eyes, with longing in our hearts, with our hands clasped in prayer, we beg you, please, do not allow our planet to be destroyed. Almighty Father, Mother God, we ask you, we beg you, don't give up on us, just like we haven't given up on you. We have had faith. We have listened to you. We have studied your great works, your inspired teachings. And we ask you to have compassion for us, to have compassion for our lives. We deserve to be alive. We deserve to live in peace. We affirm our protection. We affirm our trust in a goodness that supersedes flesh, that is not ruled by powers and principalities, but by the grand, true vision of unity and oneness, that all are worthy of love and respect, kindness and compassion. For where we go one, we go all. And so it is. All right, well, I'm crying now. I got tears in my eyes. Thank you for participating with me in this. I am not going to let you down. If my channel is not taken away, I will continue speaking to you when reasonable, as much as I can, try to keep you in the loop on what's going on. And don't forget to buy one of these, the ASU VX6R. And I will be speaking to you guys very soon. Sorry I lost it there. That probably damaged your meditation a little bit. I apologize. I'm David Wilcock. Elizabeth, you have any last words before we sign off here? We're keeping it on 3 hours.
I would just say stay strong in the goodness of your heart and stay in the state of love, and don't allow these things to move you or make you too angry. So it's important that we have numbers of people that are still staying in the good heart. Yeah, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, everybody. And this is David Wilcock and Elizabeth Wilcock, and we will see you next time. Please continue your prayers as the days go on. Even if I'm not doing more videos, please continue to have loving, peaceful thoughts for yourself and for others. Understand that these shadow influences will also be trying to destabilize your personal life, your relationships, to get you impatient, to get you angry, to get you fighting, to get you divorcing. I've heard lots and lots of crazy stories of what people are going through right now in their relationships. So please, it is just as important that we collectively treat each other well in our personal lives if we want to see this planetary emergency solved. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon, and let's hope for the best.